Hopefully I didn't turn off my microphone. We're already going live. But if assuming my microphone is on, and it is on, we're gonna go. So, welcome everyone. This is On Just Restart. Today is the mark of episode 101 for the podcast. It's kind of a bit of a, I guess you could say, a restart for the podcast. Because we have to do a rescheduling. We're now doing it Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Hopefully that works out for everyone. Mainly because both Brandon and I, our lives, like Mondays just won't work for us anymore, really. So we're switching over to Sundays. Brandon's going to get an education. You can talk about your education, Brandon, if you want to.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so...
When you develop vocabulary beyond 500 words.
There you go.
Yeah. Fun fact, that's what
I feel like
5-year-olds and monkeys can get
your
to.
issue is with the English.
The English
yes.
and Spanglish and suffocating on saliva. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But I'm gonna be taking classes at Houston Community College starting this spring. It's gonna be for game programming and stuff, so it's gonna be fun. But one of the classes ends at 8 p.m. on Mondays, and there's no other options for that class. So I was like, oh, that's lovely. In which 8 p.m. is when the podcast
Can you
starts.
hold on a second?
Sure.
Hold on a second.
So that got in the middle of things. So we had to change it to something else.
I actually hear a little bit of background noise. I don't know if someone has like a video playing in the background.
Huh, sorry.
Hey, it's cool. It's cool.
I had to hit up my mom.
Oh, okay. So,
That's fine.
basically, Brandon, school. You started it, or you're starting it really soon. You're gonna learn how to program games, and that is something you may even do on your channel soon. You may see some of those skills there. So that's pretty. I look forward to seeing that. And by the way, guys, the link to Brandon's channel is in the description below. For those who have not seen Brandon, who have not gone to Brandon's channel, make sure to do so. But we're also joined by Dumo and Mandy. So both of these guys are playing Pokemon, and they're gonna have a lot to say for this probably fairly massive Pokemon discussion. Mandy, it's been a while for you, so what's going on?
Nothing much. Just been chilling. Yes,
Playing Pokemon all weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna be we're gonna talk. We're gonna go get really deep into this, guys. So don't worry. But Dumo is also here. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well, thanks. I'm trying to fit this game in as often as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I still have a family.
Yeah.
That requires attention, all that
Yeah.
good stuff. So, doing what I can to fit it in. It's been a lot, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, I've clocked like 36 hours already. Some of that is just me kind of leaving it on. So disclaimer. But for sure, I've played 32, 33. For sure, I've played like 34 hours for like just me playing the game. So I've put a lot of time into the game. I already have 8 badges. I got my 8th badge, and that's pretty much where I stopped. And from what I've seen with my other friends playing, there's still a lot to do. And we're gonna get into that. But I've just been playing this game non-stop all weekend, and it's been a good time. Like the last 2 nights, I've fallen asleep playing the game. Right? I don't know if that'll happen tonight because responsibilities, but it's been a really good time. So let me check in with the chat who's here already, and we'll get things on the road. Just a couple like audio things. It doesn't seem like there's any background noise now, so we're good there. But Dumo, I know I told you to lower your audio earlier, but maybe bring it up a notch. Yeah. But just checking with the chat here. Vooper, hello. Jugs McGee, Grief and Golem, how you guys doing? So, Grief and Golem's asking is not really a question, it's more like a favor. Please talk about your favorite Pokemon. So, that could be a fun way to sort of jump into things here. I don't necessarily know if I have like a favorite Pokemon yet, but I think the one I want to bring up like right now is Toxtricity. I put him in the thumbnail. Toxtricity is a poison electric Pokemon who has this new ability called Punk Rock, which both gives you the resistance to sound, and it also boosts your sound attacks, right? So Boom Burst and its new signature move Overdrive and Electric Sound Attack are really, really good on it. Its typing is awesome offensively, and I just think it looks adorable because its baby form, Toxel, it's a baby with diapers, and then it evolves into this rocker who plays air guitar with its like gills on its chest. So I just think it's like a really awesome, unique design with awesome abilities, and I'm super excited about it. I actually did a couple Wi-Fi battles before getting this ready with it. And it was, even though I haven't done like all the crazy effort value training, all those different things, I won with it because it was just awesome. I love it.
Nice. I don't think I have a favorite Pokemon in the game yet.
Yeah.
I haven't caught enough of them. Plus, I like don't remember their names, so it's just like, oh, the one, and I could try to describe it, but like that'd be bad. So I'm just gonna, gonna have to wait on my favorite Pokemon. I don't know yet. It's undecided.
Which starter did you get?
Sobble, and then I proceeded to do a ridiculous, well, my friend proceeded to do a ridiculous amount of work in order to get us all of the starters. So they just played the game, traded the starter, restarted the game, traded me the next starter, restarted the game, I trade them back. We did this like several times until we all three had all the starters.
Okay.
That was so much easier in the previous generations. Like so much easier.
Yeah, a lot of
so long to get
cutscenes
your starter in this.
Yeah.
Is it that long?
You have to get the starter, and then you have to go to the professor before you can use any of the online trading.
Okay. Okay.
And it's quite a ways to get to your starter compared to the like usual. Just kind of walk out the door, walk into the lab. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
You got to run down to the town, then you got to run back, and that like it's quite a ways. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It's a long ways right now to send more Pokemon to people. Like that'd take a good chunk of time.
Yeah, I mean, like, because I played with like 6 people. We were all like in a room together playing all weekend, right? So trading is a lot easier for us. But none of us did the whole restart thing to get all the starters. But now we're just kind of like getting into breeding, so we can all breed our starters and pass them. But if you want them all from the beginning, doing that little grind is probably your best bet.
Yeah. But I think like the starter, I didn't see the leaks to see all the evolutions for the starters. I just didn't. But I've evolved all my starters to the second evolution. I think the one that looks the best is honestly Scorbunny.
Yes,
Raboot.
Raboot.
Yeah.
Raboot
the other
is so
ones
cool.
are strange.
I
different direction
don't know the name of the grass middle evolution yet. I think Sobble evolves into, is it Sizzle?
Drizzle.
Drizzle? Okay,
Yeah.
Drizzle. Okay.
Drizzle.
Okay. I got Scorbunny.
He looks like an emo teenager.
Emo teenager.
And then, Inteleon's pretty sweet though. It's kind of weird. I'm not big on Inteleon's like base design. If I just looked at Inteleon as is, I probably would have kind of shied away a bit. But then when you add like the animations and everything to him, I love it.
Oh, his signature move is insane.
Oh, it looks so good. That snipe shot.
That looks so nice.
And it's a headshot, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, so nice.
Yeah.
Even his Drizzle, he had like it was pretty cool. Him like he'd get the ball of water and throw it. And I like that.
Animations are important. Puts character, sprinkle it in there.
I actually
so overall, pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. But I actually, man, I think that's an interesting point you brought up, animations. Now, just for the record, I do not really want to get into the whole National Dex toxic arguments we've been having on Twitter and social media lately. Like, I'm personally kind of tired of it, right? Like, if you guys want to put your own 2 cents on it, we can do that right now, but I really just don't want to focus on it anymore. I feel like we've been, like, arguing about this, like, all year, right? So I'm kind of tired of it already. But, I'll just put my 2 cents, you guys can put your own 2 cents, and then we can move on from it. Unless you really, really want to talk about it, but I hope not, because I'm tired of it.
I'll just talk about stuff that's in the game, like ICD, but I won't, like, go back.
Yeah.
So,
Right. So I mean, we'll just take this moment to like briefly talk about it, but I don't really want to focus on it. This is my 2 cents. Like, all I suggest is that people don't like believe everything that that's said without actual sources. You know, my recommendation is, you know, if you really care about this issue, watch the Treehouse where the initial announcement was. Read the interviews, the Famitsu interview, and other interviews that were surrounding that. Read everything with good comprehension and make your own decision on it, right? You know, at the end of the day, I don't think the game is perfect, but I also think it's really good as a Pokemon fan. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on it. But, you know, if you guys want to add anything to that or give your own spin, by all means.
I guess I'll have to say that the animation-wise, I feel like it adds a lot of character, even like the subtle animations, like the way, Drizzle just threw the ball. It just adds character to a Pokemon, and I would like to see that more implemented. Like, it adds a lot. Like, it feels like it's more polished when they're doing an attack that's only they could do because of them.
Oh yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And the thing is, I actually feel like there is a lot of good animations. Could there be more? I'm sure. But like with the new Pokemon, I think all of them are pretty well done. Like one cool thing, for example, is with Cinderace, the evolution, the final evolution for the Scorbunny line. Its signature move is the most glorious fireball kicking thing ever. Like it has this pebble, it kicks it up, and then it turns into a raging ball of fire, and then it line drives it with a kick, right? And it looks super cool. But it has a really awesome idle animation during battles as well, where it just decides to randomly kick up a pebble and it turns into like a little ball of fire and just kind of like kicking in the air. You know, kind of like when people like kick a soccer ball and just try to dribble it without moving. It does that with a fireball, which I think is really, really cool. It's just a nice little touch. And I've seen a lot of like interesting little things like that with a lot of the new Pokemon.
So I think like animations like that, it really adds to a game. And it's something like, okay, maybe not like your normal hop or something won't have like a special animation, but stuff like that, even when they're idle, it goes a long way. So yeah, I know there's a lot of Pokemon, but better get started.
Yeah.
You gotta start somewhere, so.
I've always kind of been on the side of, I've seen a lot of games ruined by what fans want. So I know it's a very unpopular opinion, but I like to let studios make their decisions and produce what they want to produce, and then I'll judge it afterwards.
If that was the case, we would have like microtransaction up the wazoo. You gotta think that these people are devs.
Though.
Yeah, but it connects to the devs, and sometimes the publisher and the developer are like the same. So, I mean, I get what you're trying to say to give creative freedom, but fans are the one who consume your product. Maybe they shouldn't change like the whole outline of it, but it's fans' input that makes you want to learn. Like, I guess with Brandon, who wants to be a game developer, one day you want to listen to fans or you want to hear some feedback, and that's important. Because if you're given full reign, then I'm sorry, I don't really think it's going to be
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut
you. No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. There are certain developers where I understand letting creative freedom for the most part, but there are some developers who I'm like, no, you guys don't know what you're doing with this IP. Like Sonic developers, for the most part, for a lot of their new games, had no idea what they were doing with that franchise for a long time. They still don't really. The fans made the last real good Sonic game. And so there's certain companies and there's certain aspects, and sometimes companies know what they're doing for the most part, but there's specific parts of the game where you're like, why? This is just dumb.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of like humbling if you're, people who enjoy your stuff are giving you feedback, and, because sometimes fan bases carry a game. Yeah. When you're developing a game, when you're doing theories, when you're speculating and all that stuff, they carry a game. And
I think it's the wrong time to be taking feedback as your game comes out. So when you're in
No,
the
that's to be the perfect
last 6
time.
months, if you're willing to take, like, if you have time to take it and make changes, otherwise there's no point if you're not going to be taking changes. The thing is, for a lot of games, just I like to see what developers do. They're the creative ones. They're the ones that know what they're doing. So you can say what you want, and they can take it into consideration. Like that's great and all, but when you're trying to make demands that this has to be in the game or else, like, that you must do this, it's like I'll let them make their game, and then I'll decide afterwards whether or not I enjoyed what they made. And if I don't enjoy what they made, even as a fan, I just won't buy their game. But I do like to see them make what they want to make. I want to see their vision completed full circle, and then if I don't like it, I'm just not going to give them money.
Right. Well, I think there's something to that. I agree. Like, so I don't think anyone's wrong, right? Like, so I think feedback is definitely important, right? But I also think there's value in seeing to what someone's vision is to completion, right? It's kind of like you may have an idea what someone's vision is from afar, but until you get your hands on it and play it, that's really the only time you can put in a final verdict, right? So I agree that, so sometimes there are some things that are so egregious that, sometimes the developers or producers of something will change. For example, the Sonic design for the Sonic movie, right? I think all of us would agree that is one of those situations where we're all really happy that the filmmakers took the fan feedback and made a change with it, right? But I also think it should be noted that those people aren't necessarily the people who are behind the Sonic design, right? They're someone who kind of have gained access to it and they completely butchered it, right? So in the vein of like an actual developer who's been working on a particular series for a really long time, they are the ones responsible for it, and that's all they've done. I think maybe they have a better perspective on where they want to take their series, right? Like, for example, go on.
I think more communication, if anything, is best. Because, like, Game Freak or mostly Japan-based companies, they like to keep their games, like, top secret. Like, this is the secret stuff or something. And I just think that more communication with their fans will kind of minimalize, like, backlash and give a communication of what do you guys want to see, or do you like this, or do you like that. Again, not full control, of course not, because I'm a content creator. I don't want full control, like someone to tell me what to do. So, but it is important to take, feedback and have that communication, which I think Game Freak kind of lacked, because they were quiet until like until a few months before Sword and Shield came out. We were like looking at November, like, this thing is like 3 months away. Why haven't they said anything? And then that one moment, I remember in like E3 where he said no national decks, everyone just like, that's when it all started. So they come out of nowhere. They don't really give us of what's going on and stuff like that. And some people might say we don't deserve to know what's going on, which fair. We don't deserve to know everything, nor do I want to. But, stuff like that, major changes to a franchise that's well loved. I'm sorry, what was your name again? The one in the top of me.
Duma.
Oh, sorry, Duma. So you were saying, like, if you were a fan, if you were a fan and you didn't like something, you would just leave. That's not the case with most fans. They're really invested into the series. They can't just get up and leave because, you're invested, especially Pokemon. It's been out for years and years, and it has a culture around it. So it's really hard to just, like, I guess, see such a drastic change without nobody knowing, and then you get scared about your other stuff.
Well, I also think there's the other issue of, like, you can't make everyone happy either, right? Because the issue with having a lot of fans is that with a lot of fans, there are going to be a lot of differing opinions, right? So, I think, it's been kind of split with this whole issue that with the whole national decks and things. Like, some people are like, okay, so they're doing this to focus on overall quality, while other people are like, no, we don't trust Game Freak to do that. What we want are all the Pokemon and the way they've kind of been doing it since the past. And there's everything in between as well. So I think it's really hard to kind of make everyone happy, right? Like, I mean, we've talked about some of the things that they've tried to do in the game that we know about, right? For example, I would say that a lot of fans have been wanting roaming Pokemon, more open areas, things like that in a Pokemon game, and we've gotten that to an extent, right? Like, obviously the roaming Pokemon is something we've been begging for, we've gotten it, right? We have the wild area, which I love, by the way, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But they also have the more traditional routes, and they also have a form of random encounters to sort of appease the people who are more traditionalist. It's kind of hard to make everyone happy, but if you look at some of the decisions they made with how you play the game, they are sort of doing both at the same time, which I could see it sort of become a problem for them. Like, I'll say that just like a complaint, right? And overall, I would actually say I'm really loving this game. It honestly could be my favorite Pokemon game, right? Like, legit. But one complaint I have is that whenever I'm in the wild area, I love it. But then when I go into a town, I'm like, wait, I can't move my camera. Like, it happens a lot. Like, when I get so used to moving the camera in the wild area, I jump into a town, I'm like, oh, I can't move it anymore. Damn it. I wish I could move it. Like, so I hope that in the next generation or the next game, they offer even more camera control. But I know that that's one of those things where, like, they sort of went halfway with it because they knew some people wouldn't be happy with it or would be uncomfortable about trying something new, while at the same time, you know, they want to move forward and sort of appease fans. They want the series to move forward as well. So it's a kind of an interesting dynamic there.
They could have, like, toggled the camera, like, you turn it off on.
Right. I think one thing they could have done is, like, you know how, like, some cameras, like, you don't have full control, but you can tilt left and right, and it'll reset back to where it initially was. They could have done something like that, at least within the non-wild area spot, so you can still, like, look around a little bit and have that, you know, that free camera, or at least a semi-free camera, so you can see around a little bit more. But at the same time, it wouldn't really bother those people who aren't used to that type of gameplay.
To control a camera?
The thing is, they're targeting kids, and when you're targeting 6-year-olds, it's especially
that's something
when they're just starting. It's something that's difficult for them to pick up. You even see it now in, like, if I see someone that's never played a game and they're in their, like, 20s, 30s, and they pick one up. The dual joystick is actually something, like, we
take for granted.
It's so natural to us, but for someone that has never done it before, it's actually surprisingly difficult for them to pick up.
They have to learn.
That's one thing that actually,
and with kids,
gyro camera is actually really nice, is that it is actually more intuitive. Like, it makes more sense naturally.
But a lot of people don't like it because some people just don't want to give it a try. Others have, like, that bad taste in their mouths from, like, the motion control era with the Wii, right?
But you can't please everybody. That's the whole thing. Because Game Freak is about pleasing, like he said, the kids. If your kid can't control the thing, then they probably shouldn't be playing the game. But, like, I don't think...
I'm going to tell you that as someone who's been in, like, Pokemon Cuties for Pokemon... I hear, like, a video in the background. I don't know if that's on my end or one of your ends.
I don't hear anything.
Yeah, I hear a video actually playing in the background right now.
It's probably my wife watching TV.
Oh, okay.
I don't hear it, and I have you up to, like, 200%, so...
That's alright. Anyway. What I was just saying, though, is that... Actually, I don't know what I was saying. Distracted.
I was saying, like, something
about children?
Yeah, that.
Oh, no, okay, thank you. So what I was going to say is that, yeah, there are children, but Pokemon is such, like, it reaches, like, such a large audience. It's not just children. Like, there are people who've played, like, every gen, who are used to playing Pokemon, who the only thing they play is Pokemon. So when you introduce changes that are massive in terms of, like, the way you actually play the game, it can be a problem.
They, like, annexed half of the Pokemon. That's a massive change, not a freaking camera setting. That's just my opinion.
I think the camera setting is. I think they're both big changes.
I think people could adjust.
Larger change, but
people could adjust with the camera, but they kind of, like, said, okay, banishing all the Pokemon wasn't a big deal, but a camera change is a big deal. I sometimes don't get, like, that kind of mindset where what's a big deal and what's not, because Arguably, a lot of things are a big deal to like anybody, but I didn't think a camera would be like freaking strenuous or something. If you don't know how to use it, then learn how to use it.
Well, you can make the argument that this game, right, because the way it is, like, could be kind of like that middle road to where it's kind of like Game Freak's way of like testing out the water, seeing how people respond to it. In fact, there's actually an article came out speaking about this exact same thing, how Game Freak is really curious how fans will be responding to the camera. That was a concern of theirs. They are really interested to see how fans are going to respond to it, because I think it is something they want to move forward with, right? So it's something that they sort of test out with. And if you look at the different Pokemon games, sometimes they introduce mechanics and it's sort of like a testing ground. Pokemon Let's Go, for example. I think there's multiple things that they try out in that game that are being implemented even better with Pokemon Sword and Shield. One, obviously, is the roaming Pokemon. It's way better now than it was in Let's Go. Like, Pokemon actually run around a lot more naturally now, and sometimes they chase you and stuff like that. That didn't happen in Let's Go. They just sort of like wandered randomly in Let's Go. So that's like one thing that we sort of saw them test out and move forward with. Another interesting one is actually, so you had all the candies in Let's Go, right? Now there's a lot of candies in Sword Shield, but they're used for competitive reasons, and it's not just like a casual venture like in Let's Go, but they actually make the experience of the game like way more convenient. Like, I had a level 1 Dreepy, which is okay, I don't want to spoil it. It's like one of the later Pokemon, but I pushed it to level 50 really quickly because I had a lot of candies, which I got from doing a lot of raid battles. So, which I got to do with my friends, which was really fun. It's co-op Pokemon, which is something we haven't really had before. So I really love that. My point is, I think, you know, in terms of like some of the gameplay things, they test out some things and then they move forward. Game Freak has never been like making really massive changes and improvements game by game. They usually make like half steps, and I feel like Sword and Shield is a little bit more of a half step, but it definitely you know, is still Game Freak in the sense that, you know, it's like a slow evolution from previous games.
They always take it's really weird. See, the Pokemon community, and again, it's such a large community that, you know, so the Pokemon community has been complaining that they've been lacking change throughout the series for like decades, and yet whenever they make a change, there's big backlash to it. But it's because it's such a massive community. You have literally two different sides, so it's not the same people making these complaints, but it is the community is making these complaints, which is where like things get really difficult for Game Freak to try to appease their community, because they have very different communities and it's large groups, and they're very passionate about, very vocal about it. So it's a tough one, but
yeah,
you know, again, like I'm playing this game. One of the things that's always kind of been a bit of a concern is like how to get over it is, okay, say they do Breath of the Wild style open world Pokemon game. How do they handle you staying out in nature for as long as you can? Like otherwise you're jumping back and forth to Pokemon centers nonstop, and you got to run all the way back out. It's like, well, now they have camping, curry, which solves that problem. Everything from your power points to your health, status effects, everything. It even gains experience. So that, like, it's just opening up so much more. And again, as you said, I find it very jarring. The first thing I do when I get back to town is I try to point my camera towards the Pokemon Center, and when it doesn't happen, it's like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah,
you know,
so
it's frustrating to have the two different play styles. Like it seems disjointed to me, where you have and like again, they to me, I feel like they've built this beautiful world, and there's so much of it, the best looking parts of it, I just want to look at better, and I can't.
I didn't even know like a camera was a big thing in the Pokemon community. Like, okay, the camera was the least of the worries. Like, I didn't even notice camera changes. But then, like, you know, Dumo saying like there's people who can't handle the camera and can't control the camera. I'm like, okay, there is so much more in that game to be talked about than like a freaking camera perspective. And I just think it could be easily implemented. You toggle it on or off or whatever. So I didn't even know there was like this Pokemon fan base who, I guess, likes the camera.
The Pokemon
In
fan
one
base
place?
is really, really large. I mean, we're talking about every game sells like at least 15 million, right? At least, and that's every game. Most people don't get every game, right? Like, so the Pokemon community is ginormous. There are so many different kinds of players with entirely different lifestyles or just like patterns of how they play games, right? Like, we are core gamers, right? We play a lot of games, so obviously camera controls seems like a simple notion. Like, of course, that's something we should have like in every single game, right? So a lot of, you know, core gamers have wanted Pokemon to sort of move in that direction, but I'm just saying there are a lot of other people who I know personally where they were a little concerned about that, right? So, and
All you have to do is learn. It's so easy, though.
Game Freak had concerns about it.
Like,
There's articles on it, you know.
That's the thing why so many people in this community. It's because Game Freak is kind of like focusing on something that nobody wants them to. It's more of like they're fixing something and everyone's looking at something else. Like, we don't need to fix the camera. The camera's fine. It's the least of the concerns.
Well, there's a lot to still talk about, but I want to check in with the chat, and you know, we'll move a little bit forward. So let's just see what's going on here. Padui is saying he's loving this game. Jugzagi, Flapple or Surfetch for him in terms of his favorite Pokemon. Minecraft's asking, worst Pokemon by design? So I'll say I do not like the Squirrel.
You never asked me my favorite Pokemon.
What's your favorite Pokemon?
For Galar, exclusive, I have to say Yamper. Because the little corgi, he does this cute thing that if you throw a Pokeball and it fails, he will catch the Pokeball and give it to you. I'm like, oh, that's so cute.
Have you played with it in the camp yet?
Yeah.
It's constantly like fetching the ball, but one interesting thing that I noticed with Yamper, like whenever it picks up the toy and it runs back at you, you can see like its yellow fur like sparkling. Not sparkling, but like it's like staticky.
He's a dog. He's having fun.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. He's picking up the Pokeball that failed. And now you have your Pokeball back.
Can't. But one that really interests me is Berserker.
Okay.
Because of what that opens up.
Berserker is a new evolution from an old Mon.
Already had an evolution.
Yeah.
Other than that, I would say coolest name goes to Grimmsnarl.
Grimmsnarl. Yeah, Grimmsnarl is pretty cool. Grimmsnarl is like crazy because it's dark fairy and it looks like this weird fairy demon. It's like two things at once and it's disturbing.
I like when they get creative with the typing. It's always nice to see.
Which is why I love Toxtricity. Toxtricity is effectively like an electric poison sound type because of its punk rock ability where it can both resist and boost sound attacks, which is really cool.
I didn't know sound was a type.
It's not. I said effectively as in I was trying to suggest that it is only two types, but with punk rock it gives it both sound boosted attacks and sound resistance. That could
be a potential type sound. That's cool.
Well, it's lumped into normal. I don't think they're gonna.
Like hyper voice and echo voice.
Not doing anything with it.
Yeah, they could have, but yeah.
If they need some ideas, I think sound would be a cool one.
Yeah,
I don't think they're gonna add types anytime soon.
Probably not, but.
Took them 6. How many gens? Like in Gen 2, we got 2 new types, right? But I feel like Gen 2 is kind of more of like a completion of the initial idea, right? Like I always consider Gen 1 and 2 to be like because a lot of Gen 2 Pokemon and ideas were planned with Gen 1, but they couldn't pull it all off immediately, so they implemented them for Gen 2, right? But if you kind of exclude that, like after that, it took them Gen 3, 4, 5, and then 6 to introduce one type. So I don't really expect another type for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind.
It's already enough types, in my opinion, so...
Yeah, so...
Yeah. So, what was I saying?
Worst Pokemon. Worst design.
Where's
I don't like
Pokemon?
the squirrel. I don't like the squirrel.
He's annoying. He's shaking trees and he just. It's like, oh man.
My berries.
I feel bad. Someone said
Uh,
to name it like Sandy Cheeks or something.
I gotta look up what the name of the Pokemon is, but I know it evolves into Orbeetle. It's the early bug.
Yeah.
Sorry, just a second.
Which one I don't like?
Blip Bug. I do not like the design of Blip Bug, but I like its
Oh
evolutions.
god. Yeah.
The thing just looks so weird. But again,
Yeah,
like
it's very
it's
strange.
really weird. The eyes are messed up. Like it doesn't even. It doesn't even look like it
I have
really
to like
fits
really
the Pokemon
inspect
universe.
it to even understand what I'm looking at. I'm like, what is this part of your body? I don't understand.
It was so confusing. And then it evolves into Dottler, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then it becomes Bug Psychic, and then Orbeetle just looks awesome. So
Yeah. By the way, I figured out
Yeah.
the reason for some of the background noise was actually the music that I had from Sword and Shield. So when I prepared it, there was a video that was playing in the background. So I had to. That's why I just changed the music to make sure we don't get that anymore.
That's why only you could hear it.
Yeah. That's
We're all like,
it
what are you
was.
talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. It would come up like around the same point where I had looped the song. So it took me a while. It took me what, like 30 minutes to figure it out. But yeah. So But anyway, let's kind of move on with the chat here because we haven't gotten to it. And then we'll move forward.
Okay.
How do we doesn't like Milcery? Milcery's the pre-evolution for Alcremie. Who have any of you guys gotten Alcremie yet?
I haven't.
I have Milcery. I don't have Alcremie yet.
Okay. You know how to evolve it?
Not a clue.
Do you have to cook it or something?
You're actually fairly close. I don't know what item it is, but you have to have an item, and then I think it's like a strawberry, and you have to have the strawberry, and you have to do the spinning trick.
In the pot?
No.
Oh.
Like when you're running around, if you run in circles,
yeah.
you do a little spin dance. When you do that while you have the strawberry and the Milcery, I think that's when it causes it to evolve because you have the strawberry, you mixed it, you mixed the batter, and then it became.
I got
cake.
like some whipped cream.
How was
from
someone supposed to
which was
figure
supposed
that
to be
out?
So
I could. This is just what I heard. Maybe I saw someone do it actually, but I might got the details slightly wrong. I don't know. The whipped cream could be also related to that. Maybe it gives it a different color.
I like thought of Alcremie immediately.
Maybe
With Farfetch'd, to evolve him to Surfetch'd, you have to get 3 critical hits in a row. I'm
Is
like,
there any
that-
like in-game
What?
way of knowing how to evolve these things?
he has a giant leak, and that increases his like crit rate. So it's pretty easy to land a crit. The only bad part is you gotta get 3 in a row.
so. You gotta use focus energy.
Something like that.
If you do focus energy, you'll start getting crits a lot of them. You can set up so you can get a lot of crits, but yeah, no, I can see that it would be interesting. I don't know, Brandon, in terms of if there's an in-game, like there's probably a hint somewhere for those particular
Right.
Pokemon. I have not caught a Milcery
I can't even
or
find an in-game way of telling if a Pokemon has an evolution. Because I feel like in Moon, if I remember right, it would tell you like which stage of the evolution Pokemon you caught, and it would tell you if there's like another one or
in
above
the
and below.
Pokédex, it would give you like a page of it. So when you went into it, you'd have like, so you
Right.
have the middle evolution, you'd have like, it would be up, and then you'd have the 2
It'd
on
be
the
like
side.
grayed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't do that in this one. So I'm like trying to evolve these Pokemon. Like, am I just like grinding for nothing? Is this actually
didn't know,
do anything?
Yimper has an evolution. So when it was evolving, I was like, no! And then it looks like a pole. Like, it looks like a dog. Regular dog.
yeah.
I'll just go get another one.
Let me see. I'm trying to think what evolutions I've done that are like unique. I think they've all been level up for me.
I am gonna be
Yeah.
trading
Yeah.
one Pokemon that I caught. It was like a ghost type. I forget what it's called. It looked like a lantern, I think. But I have to trade.
The chandelier
trade them.
one?
No, not the chandelier one. It looks like a hand like holding lamp, and it's
Oh, I know which
ghost
one.
type Pokemon.
Phantom?
I think it is.
Phantom?
Yeah, something like that.
Is
You have
that-
to trade to get the evolution for that Pokemon.
Okay, I got a sweet strawberry.
Okay.
Some of them
Where is
are
it?
like weird.
No, there's a lot. There's a lot of really
Yeah.
cool designs.
I'm like, how would you know?
Well,
Kind of scrolling through here. Computer was adding me. Hi everyone, and damn it, you guys all played Pokemon Sword Shield throughout the weekend and completed. I did not beat it. I put in 30 plus hours, 35 plus hours. I have 8 badges. I just got 8 badges, but there's still a lot for me to do. Lot.
I have about 8.5 hours. I have 1 badge.
I have 4 badges.
I mean,
But I have like 40 Pokemon in my Pokedex right now, so.
So I think that's a
Catching all
I
the
spent
Pokemon.
so much time in the wild area.
yeah. No, that's it's really
I
fun.
spent more time on routes than I have in the wild area so far.
That's
but,
interesting.
I'm gonna go back soon and go explore more in those before I go to Route 5.
Okay, so I have 5 badges. And I have no clue how long I've played.
If you
Let me-
just
It tells
save
you
it,
on
it should
your
tell
when you
you.
save.
Yeah.
Do that now. Playtime 21 hours, 47 minutes.
So Jugs McGee added me. Did anyone nickname their Pokemon? I nicknamed Scorbunny Messi since Scorbunny looks like a soccer player. That's a good one. So I kind of like my Pokemon as they're named usually. Sometimes I'll play around with a nickname. I actually went ahead and nicknamed my entire team for like a few minutes, and I was like, you know what? I like their normal names. So then I nicknamed their actual names. But for what's it? Not the evolution before Corviknight. It's like something Squire, like Corvisquire, something like.
Corvisquire.
Okay, I
Yeah.
got it right. So like I had nicknamed Corvisquire Bird. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it back its real name, but I didn't remember its real name, so I just named it
Ooh.
Corviknight. So
Oh,
it was a
yeah,
Corviknight
I'm-
before it was a Corviknight.
I like to leave the names as is, just so I can try to learn them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
that
just the most uncreative person ever when it comes to names, so I just.
Yeah, I don't name mine.
I'm so bad at naming things. Every time I get to like a menu, like a game where you have to like create your character, and it's like, what do you want to name? And like,
How long did it take you to pick your number?
oh, instant. I went 117.
117?
Yeah,
Why?
because Master Chief. That's why.
Is that his model number?
That's it. He's John 117. That's
Okay,
his hard
okay.
number.
Yeah, my Halo lore is terrible. I'm sorry. All right.
I've read books. I'm big on Halo.
I have 14. My birthday.
Okay.
Nice.
Zumo?
Basic.
I went 3, 1, 3. There we go.
Why? Yeah,
I don't know.
just threw it out there.
It's just like I need a number.
So
I need 3 digits.
I picked 7. Why did I pick 7? I'm not entirely sure. I just think like whenever someone tells me guess a number, the first number that comes to my head, I always guess 7. I don't know, and then I guess 7 is like 1 over 6, and then you got the 6 Pokemon, and then also 7 would be like a good NBA number to have, like if I had a
Seven's
jersey.
my favorite number.
And it's a prime number, so like that. Oh, like I don't know, 7. Good one.
I should have put a 0, so it's like 014, not just 14. That
Yeah.
bothers me now.
I didn't even know you could just.
I wish you could change your number.
Yeah, you
Neither
could
did I.
do that. I think. Yeah.
I'll
Um,
Google it right away then.
Yeah, so Grief and Golem is specified in terms of Alcremie. That's how it works for Alcremie, but the item it holds is what ends up in the air. So I guess like if you have whipped cream, Brandon, it might affect it differently. Because there's like 9 different forms for Alcremie or something. Apparently there's a rainbow
Yeah.
one, but we're not entirely sure how to do it yet. It might be related to stats or something. But the others
Well,
I
There's
think
a
relate to
mint
the item.
one,
I
like
can
a
try it right
green
now if
mint.
you want with the.
That one looks cool.
I have a level 15 Milcery if you want me to try it.
You
It's
could?
just you just spin.
Does it have to
I
be a
like-
level, or
I don't know
I
if
don't know.
I'm not sure if the
Like-
Pokemon has to be holding the item. Maybe it has to be holding the item. Does it say
Every-
when you check the
you
item?
gotta, like, I think it has to be holding it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would make sense.
When I got like the whipped cream, it told me that it was a
Oh,
whole
look.
He's
item.
spinning it.
Come on. There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Now I can actually see it.
I
There we
want to
go.
see if it
And-
works.
There it is.
Oh.
We're witnessing an
Oh.
evolution right now. There
So
is.
it was just, I gave it this, I think it's sweet strawberry. It was holding it. There we go.
We are witnessing the evolution of Alcremie.
I have to go get one.
Alcremie
It's
is
so
such a
cute.
great design.
I like how you spin it. That's cute.
Yeah.
Ruby cream.
That's
Cells
charming.
that compose its cream fluctuated suddenly during evolution, giving the cream a sweet and tart flavor.
Now I'm
Hmm.
hungry.
Yeah.
Now
But-
it wants to learn moves.
So
She's so
that's pretty
cute.
cool. That's pretty cool.
So yeah,
So-
just give it the strawberry to hold and then spin it.
There you go, guys. That's it. So, Mastermind,
creamy.
Atomy, do you guys wish the next Pokemon game should be an MMO? I want them to continue to move forward. They had some MMO-like features, and I think they were good. I want them to be even better implemented and to continue to progress the series. I don't think it needs to be an actual MMO, though. At least not for now.
Yeah,
I
I don't know
think
that I want it to be an MMO.
I think the MMO parts of it, for starters, I don't know. Was everyone kind of taken off guard when you get to the wild area and you're like, oh my god, what are all these people doing here?
To just pop up. I'm like,
You're
what?
just like, wait,
Pop
are these
up and
people? Wait,
destroy my
what?
frame rate. Get away.
Yeah, yeah. If you're
Exactly
connected
it.
to the internet, it impacts your frame rate. If you play it locally, it's fine.
I've heard
Yeah.
there's no issues if you play it locally. I've been on the internet the entire time
Yeah.
in the wild
It's-
area,
it's
and I still
trash.
only see
So
issues
bad.
with weather. As soon as the weather
Yeah,
comes, things start
The weather
slowing down.
just tanks everything when you're
This-
online.
And I think
It's really
one of the
weird.
problems, well, you have your weather, which is causing issues. You have all these extra people popping in, which causes issues. And then you get like 20, 30 Pokemon up on screen at one time. It's like, yeah, I kind of expect that to have
much.
some
Get
frame
away.
rate issues.
Well,
Talking about the
and-
weather, I don't get it. Like, what's the logic? Is it random? Because I'm trying to look for something, but it's in fog, so it's raining. I'm like, what?
I believe different areas can get different weather depending on which Pokemon show up. So if you get a Pokemon that shows up that can produce weather, you'll get that weather. And then different Pokemon will show up because of that weather being in that area. So it's just a
Interesting.
way of having it. It's basically just a way of having the wild area be less of just a stagnant. This area has this, that has that, and then it's a way to make it feel more dynamic. And I feel like they did a good job of it. It's just
I think they
have
have to,
so
like-
much going on, and I think that is also why the wild area is so minimalistic when it comes down to the actual look of the wild area. Is they're trying to get so many Pokemon on screen, they're trying to get weather, they're trying to get all these people on screen and their camps on screen and the lights for the camps and people calling for help, and it's so much on screen that actually I as much as I love the kind of MMO aspect of it, I think that's what's hurting the performance and overall the actual look of the game in the wild area.
I mean, honestly, I felt like the wild area looked fine. Like, yeah, it's not the most graphically impressive, but there are some parts that look pretty nice. Yeah, I mean, like, for example, the tree textures are very simple, things like that. And there are times where I'm like, oh man, I really wish I could, like, jump down this cliff. Like, I wish it was kind of more like Breath of the Wild in that way. But
Oh, yeah.
there are a lot of online elements put in there as well, which I think are really cool. Like, so for me, like, I feel like my Pokemon experience is maybe not necessarily the best representative of what is everyone else's Pokemon experience, because for me, I was playing with 5 other people, so there's 6 of us in a room, in a big living room, playing all weekend, right? And we were all, like, we're doing raid battles together constantly because we're all connected locally. So because we're playing locally, there was also not really that internet lag issue, right? And just playing locally is like someone finds a really rare Pokemon, I'm like, oh crap, all right, let's all go jump in together, right? So for us, it was kind of like this massive co-op experience, which was really, really cool. Now, you can still do that with online, but obviously when you're online, there's more lag, and it's not as consistent, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
But-
can still get everyone in.
Yeah, you can still
It's-
get
you've been doing
get people, but it's just kind of like one of those things where when you're in a room with people and you're just like, oh my god, guys, I just found the Gigantamax Machamp, let's all jump in and get it. And then everyone jumps in and gets it. It's not the same as you're playing online. You're not actually communicating with someone, you know, with your voice, and you just see a tab
Yeah.
come up. You know, sometimes you might see
Yeah,
it too
well,
late, for example.
For us, it's been I've been on Discord the entire time. My community's been like the people that play the game in my community have been like all over it. Been a lot of good stories out of my community for it, and I'm very, very happy with the group. But
well, that's something else that can be done, though.
You'll get a ping that says Gigantamax Butterfree, let's go, and it's like, okay, everyone jump in. We all know the code. Everyone gets in as fast as they can, brings what they've got. And
yeah.
so it's been a blast, but it'd be so much better. It would be so much better locally in a group talking.
Oh no, it was so great, man. It was so cool. It was so much fun. And I just think there's a lot of potential there. And honestly, Cold outside right now though. He was it him that brought it up? Yeah, I mean we already sort of jumped into talking about it, but he wanted us to talk about like some of the MMO elements, right? Because I think it offers a lot. Like we actually have co-op elements in a Pokemon game, and it's really added to my experience. But then just like the raid battles, I love them. Like they are so fun. And also the level 5s are actually really challenging. Like I've lost a few, right? Like they are hard. I wonder if they'll become easy once I have like level 100 Pokemon. But for now, there's actually a fair bit of challenge. Most Pokemon games, everything's like an entire breeze. But I have had multiple interactions in this Pokemon game where, hey, you know what? That was a little challenging.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So for me, I put like some rules on myself to make it harder, because when I was playing Moon and I just played it like, you know, to win, I guess, you destroy everything like instantly. It's just one shot, everything. It's not even a little bit hard. You take like 2 HP of damage and then you just one shot everything. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna have fun if I do that. So I put a few rules. I always make sure my Pokemon are at least the same level or a few levels below everybody else, and I trade out my Pokemon constantly. Not only just because of that, but also because I want to evolve everything. And then I also don't ever use potions. So if I'm on a route, I don't use potions unless I'm in battles, so I'll never heal myself out of battle. So if I want to heal, I have to take up a turn. And I also have some other rules, like if a Pokemon gets too strong, I always switch it out of my party. If I notice that it's like taking things out really quickly, I always switch it out for somebody else. And I've just been having a lot more fun just making the game harder on myself and really having to switch out my Pokemon and like be smart about things, because my Pokemon don't just instantly annihilate everything.
It's actually 2 things I'm taking from what you just said, Brandon. One, yeah, I do some of those things too. Like if you go to like the options and you set the battle style to set, it won't ask you if you want to switch your Pokemon. So if the computer sends out a Pokemon that's not into your advantage, you don't have that opportunity to get a free switch. So if you need to switch because you're gonna die, you have to switch into something and it's gonna have to take the hit. So you're gonna have to be smart about what could happen. That makes the game a little harder as well if you want to try that out, if you haven't already. Which is what most Pokemon games have
I didn't know
had.
what the setting did.
Yeah. If you put it to set, it's a little harder. So
Okay,
you could try that out. Yeah. But I'm actually curious, Brandon. I'm curious for Brandon though, because I know for you, right? Like you didn't get too into Sun and Moon, and you haven't played previous Pokemon games. I know you said you're like 8 hours in, which I think is a decent amount. How do you feel about the game right now as a very, very casual Pokemon fan?
I'm enjoying it way more than I enjoyed Moon.
Okay.
Way more. I really didn't really enjoy most of my time playing Moon. There was a couple of times where I was like, I really like catching new Pokemon and evolving them, so I had fun doing that during Moon. But literally everything else, I was just bored the entire time. And I'm not sure if it's because of a lot of it's because of the rules I've set up myself. I'm having much more fun in battles and stuff. But also I feel like the game just overall feels more fun to play. There's like this hair and it's annoying. But it just feels a lot more fun. One thing I really enjoy is that there seems to be a little bit more challenge in the game itself. Like when I was playing Moon, and you would find like the trainers who would catch your eye and they would fight you, they almost always only had one Pokemon. Every single time they had one Pokemon, it had like no levels. It was so easy to kill. Now I've run into trainers all the time that have 3 Pokemon. Their Pokemon have decent levels. They actually are like kind of smart about the way that they fight, and they're not just, I take out one Pokemon with my 6 Pokemon and have no chance of them doing anything to me. I think there's some things like that as well. But there's also some things that I really thought that they should have gone for, like voice acting. I felt like the cutscenes were really The
They
cutscenes
look
are
really
animated really
good.
well, but they're
They just need the
so
voices.
flat. They're not like you. There's no emotion to them. You don't. There's no feeling to them because I feel like a lot of that's just.
I don't want to say there's any
lack of
feeling.
voice
I won't
acting.
go that far because well, I mean, I'm further in the game, right? So you know, from what you've seen,
At least for the beginning cutscenes, like they're kind of nice to watch because they look good and they're well animated. Like the starter cutscene when you see all your soldiers jumping around it, I thought that was great.
Yeah.
But like
I totally agree though. The
I
voice
hate the-
acting would take it to
I
another
hate
level.
that there's no voice acting.
Because
I mean, the lip syncing is just they need a voice. So
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Because the thing is, like, I feel like there's honestly, in terms of like the characters and how expressive they are, and like in terms of animations, right? Obviously, there's no actual voice acting. The animations and what these characters do, I think, is some of, if not the best in the series. But
Yeah, I think
they
it
need the
looks good.
voices. Like, there's this one gym leader who sings, right? I don't want to spoil anything, but you have a cutscene with them where they're singing, and people are like dancing to it, right? But you don't actually hear them singing. You just see their mouth moving. And you hear everything else, like them doing the foot taps and banging on the microphone, and that's all really cool. But it just needs a singing voice to go with everything else. And if it did, it would have been epic. But, you know, I actually want to take that and sort of like jump into this next category, though, because I've been through all the gyms, right? And I really hope I can rematch the gym leaders, because it's not even close to me. The gym battle experience is so much better in Sword and Shield than any other game. Like, it's just so freaking cool, like, with the crowd cheering. And what's really interesting to me, right, I don't know how much have you guys noticed this, but with each gym battle, it has dynamic music. So depending on what's happening in the battle, the music changes. Like, for example, if you're switching out a Pokemon, it's more low beat, right? Or depending on what part of the battle you're in, it gets more epic. Like, once it gets to the part where the final part where the gym leader is going to Dynamax their Pokemon, then the crowd jumps in and they're like, whoa, 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 and it's just so freaking cool. I love it. I can't. I'll rave about it like all day. The gym battles, it's not even close, man. The gym battles in Sword and Shield are so good. I hope I can rematch them in some way. I love it.
All we needed was a Pokemon Stadium type announcer to really put the icing on the cake there.
That would have
would've
been cool to
Cherry
see.
on top. That would have been amazing.
What like the atmosphere in the gyms is just so well done. The crowd, the sounds, the music, it just everything is, and the camera changing, the camera angles. They did such a great job of that. Everything. One of my favorite parts of the gym is the walkout, that quiet walkout on the field.
Yeah,
That's like oh, it's ready, it's time.
it's so good.
It's like, and I love that they didn't put any music to it. It's just all you hear is the crowd and it's just them
That
walking
build
out.
up.
Then they look at each other, and then something said, they spin, they take a few steps back, they spin back and look at each other and say, it's time. It's like, wow. And again, just add a little bit of voice acting to that, and that just gets so good.
Just a quick little thing. I just got a super chat from Mark Jacobs. He said, here's a free super chat. My brother bought both the games and he's been playing it nonstop. Thank you so much, Mark Jacobs. Yeah, I've been playing the game nonstop too. It's such a good time. But Mandy, how do you feel about the gyms?
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, first, I've been streaming my game, like most of it. Some of it I play offline, but I guess that adds some sort of like significance to it, because I'm with my stream, talking to my people, playing the game, having fun. So that kind of adds something new that I haven't done in any other Pokemon. That's cool. As the gym battles, I really like them. Like I said, like you said, Andres, the whole atmosphere and everyone cheering, and just a little bit of voice acting, especially towards the end when they're about to Dynamax, will go a long way.
Because they're saying epic stuff, right? Like, they have really cool lines. If they had some good voice acting there, oh my god, it would be through the roof good. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And like, not everything needs to be voice acted, but scenes like those,
The cutscenes, that's all you really need.
it would add so much impact. And
The thing with it too, I feel like the voice acting would actually take away the issue with people complaining about the animations in cutscenes. So one of the complaints that I've heard that I kind of understand a little better is like you have like this the cutscene is they're posing. It's like they pose, and then they say something, and then their pose changes, and then they say something, but it's a matter of, it's because it's in text and it's waiting for a prompt. Whereas if it just flowed with voice acting, it would just flow from one to the next. You wouldn't need a prompt, and then you could have a properly animated cutscene. I think that would solve a lot of the issues that a lot of the complaints people have had with animations is just adding voice acting. So not only would the voice acting be amazing, but it would also solve some problems that they've had too.
It's an interesting point.
It's the little things that add up to make it a whole experience. It's not just like we need, the best of the best and all that. No, it's just little touches and
I feel like
the personality.
I feel like they did a lot compared to previous games, but definitely I think there is still room for more. Like I said, I'm really enjoying the games, right? But it's one thing to, I guess, like, because so much people have been, because it's been really toxic on the internet about talking about this game. I want to stress that for me personally, I'm gonna wait until I beat the game and some time has passed to really say for sure. But I honestly am feeling like this might be my best Pokemon game experience in years, right? Like since I was a kid, and that may have just been good just because I was a kid, right? Like this is really good. But I am seeing things that they could improve upon. Like for example, Brandon and me, whenever we talk about Zelda, Breath of the Wild is one of our favorite games of all time, right? Agreed, Brandon? Yeah. But half the discussion is about how the game could be better, right? So
yeah, it always is.
Right. So the point I'm trying to make here is just because there are things that I see are that could be better about the game, that's not me trying to say, hey, this game's not that good. No, I actually think it's a really good Pokemon game from what I've experienced so far, but there are definitely things that can make even better. Before we move on, just a couple questions I want to address with the chat. Cold Outside right now added me. Do any of you know how often the max raid battles reset? Is it once a day or less? I'm pretty sure it's less, because I've run through a lot of the red lights. They'll disappear after a little while, and I'll see a whole bunch of new ones. Like it'll happen several times in a day at least.
I don't know what prompts them to reset, but I have literally done a raid battle, ran to the next one raid battle, and then I've been able to run back and do the raid battle the one before. So I have no clue what it takes to reset them, or if it's random.
Yeah, I haven't figured it out.
It definitely does reset quicker than once a day. Although I have also done I spent like 2-3 hours doing raid battles,
and you can almost clear them out.
Yeah, you can like basically clear them out if you stay long enough. But then I just stayed in the wild area and kept.
It might just be leaving the wild area and coming back.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to do a little bit more time to really figure that part out. But it definitely resets more than enough. So it's not like you run out for a day and you don't have any more. Like you can do raid battles all day if you really wanted to.
And if you have friends, so say 4 people, on Discord or whatever, and you're doing raid battles, you can literally, you can run around to collect raid battles for everyone while they're off playing the game, and then you can go play the game while one of your friends comes in and looks for raid battles, and you can cycle through. I think it was Friday night. I did the entire stream. I did raid battles the entire night while doing the story.
You can kind of, I had a similar experience because, like I said, I had my friends there. If I was in the wild area, usually 1 or 2 people were in the wild area. They'll run into raid battles and be like, "Oh, guys, look what I found!" And people who are just exploring the rest of the gym leader challenge, right? They're like, "Oh, okay, let's jump into that," and then you go right back to where you were because you just press Y. You don't have to leave where you were at to get into the raid battle. So it works pretty well. If you have friends locally, if you're online, there's some lag. But even when I play online, it's not. I mean, it's playable. But it definitely could be a little better. Let's see.
I play a lot online. So.
Yeah. How do you feel about it when you're online?
It's good. It's way better than like the previous titles. I like how it's more clean. Like you just see your friend's stamps on the side. You press Y. There it is. You don't have to go to this like another world or something like other Pokemon
It's seamless.
games.
It works with the game. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, for sure.
And it's very easy to like get what it's like saying. There's link battle, trading, surprise trading. It's not like, in the past it has some like weird concepts for online
or just
battle.
go to a separate like carnival place to do all your Wi-Fi stuff. Yeah, and that doesn't even count like the link battles, which is a separate option in your start screen, which I tried a little bit of, and it seems pretty good.
Only thing is,
I
I don't know
love that
why
you
they didn't like put the Nintendo Switch app. They didn't do anything with Pokemon.
I'm okay with that.
They're not
I
doing
mean, I think
anything
they-
with that for anything.
They probably forgot
It's
about
so
it,
annoying.
but
I don't. How
I
many
have a
games
funny
actually use the
feeling
Switch
it-
app?
two.
Yeah,
I think.
Three.
three.
I believe you can do voice chat over Mario Kart with friends on your friends list if you are on with the mobile app. I believe.
Oh,
You
I did not
have
know that.
You have Splatnet, and then you have like I'm not a Smash player, but there's an icon for Smash.
Okay.
Mario Maker
Um,
should have had. the
Yeah.
app, by the way.
Probably.
Just saying.
One thing I would say with Pokemon, why they probably don't have anything on the app is because it's actually a second party game and not a first party game. And it seems like unless it's first party, they're not doing anything with that app, and even first party doesn't seem to want
A
to
lot
have
of-
First party's not
games,
doing anything
yeah.
with
that
that
app.
app.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not
Except for
complaining. It was just a
Splatoon,
point.
which
Yeah. So there was
again, Splatnet was really good for Splatoon, and other than that, like I don't know what it does for Smash, but
Yeah. So I see a pretty
Yeah.
good question here from. Sorry. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say to that?
nope, we're good.
Oh, okay. I see a pretty good question here from Darcy. They're asking, I feel like the game gives a lot of instant gratification early. Does that cause any issue with later parts of the game? So, just to kind of put into perspective what I think you mean by instant gratification. So, like for example, if you do like a level 4 or 5 raid battle, you'll get some awesome candies, which you could use to like level your Pokemon like 30 levels if you wanted to, right? Which obviously allows you to level up your Pokemon really easily that way. So
Really
then,
fast.
so then does that make the game easy? So I guess that kind of depends on what your perspective of easy, right? So like the raid battles have been hard for a while for me. Like there's like the level 5s are still hard, and all my Pokemon are in their 50s, right? Because part of that also depends on who's in your team as well, right? So there's that. But just like in terms of like the gym leader challenge, there have been a couple gym leader fights where there's some challenge. It's fairly easy for me, but I'm still really enjoying it. But I do think I'm a little over leveled because I have used a lot of the candies. So, I mean, I guess I don't feel like it's an easy challenge. Like, I wouldn't call this game easier than previous games, right? And I have used a lot of the candies. But if I were to go complete all out and just invest all my candies into maxing up the levels for my Pokemon, yeah, I probably could have my team like in all the 70s, right? Or higher. And then it would be easy. So if you go all out with it, you could make it easy for you. But at the same time, it honestly doesn't sound too different from, say, for example, Mario Odyssey or Breath of the Wild, in the sense that those games, depending on how you play, it's either hard or easy, right? Like Brandon, for example, you brought up different things that it kind of depends on how you play the game to make it easy or hard, right? So, you know, it does. A lot of it does come down to how you choose to play the game.
I think the game really depends on you to choose your own difficulty, which I'm not a big fan of, but also at the same time, I can't think of a way that they could really change that too much without making you have to like grind, because there's just so many Pokemon. You want to eventually, you know, get a bunch of them and level them up and you know, get them to evolve and all this stuff with hundreds of Pokemon. And if they make the game to where you have to grind out like so many levels all the time, then you're gonna get bored and it's gonna take forever to do so. So they have to make it easy because there's so many Pokemon to level up your Pokemon. So it's kind of up to you to make sure that you're not getting too over leveled. Switch out your Pokemon, you know, use different your own personal kind of rule sets on how to make the game harder, which yeah, as I said, not my favorite thing in games, but I don't really understand how that they could really balance the game in order to make it like difficult without that.
It comes down to, again, like how big their player base is, and and it's not just like, oh, they have a massive player base of core gamers. You have a massive player base. Some are core gamers. You have professional gamers. You have children that are like learning how to read, basically. Like at that age group is playing these games. You have a lot of different groups, and so it's kind of hard to give a difficulty level for all of them. And so Pokemon has pretty much always been like you have to make your own difficulty if you want it hard. As that, I would say the Wild area does a really, really good job of that.
I do think so.
They give you the candies, they give you the TRs, so the moves, that you can be overpowered, and it's your choice to use them or not. And then you can do that all day long, and your Pokemon will not go up a single experience point.
Right.
So it's up to you. So far, what I've done with my experience is rather than grinding in the wild area itself, I brought my Pokemon up to the level that I wanted, and then I stopped giving them anything. I just keep raiding and getting candies. And it's like, oh, I want to use a new Pokemon. Oh, I caught this cool new Pokemon. Okay, well, I'll just candy it up to the level I want it at, and rather than grinding it out to there, and then we'll just pick up from there. So to me, it's. Do you remember the IGN review that everyone freaked out over?
The 7.9 too much
like
water. Yeah,
I think it was like a 9.3 or 93 or whatever.
You mean for Sword and Shield?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, that was like 4 days ago.
I really don't think I would give, as much as I like it, I don't think I'd give Sword and Shield a 9 or 90. Like 8 would be pretty, to me, would be
I haven't played
pretty
my experience
score right
so
now.
far.
But I must agree with the one thing she said. The game seems to respect my time. And I feel like that's like, I could just.
It's so much easier to build teams now. So much easier. But at the same time, go on.
Yeah, so like that statement of I feel like this game respects my time. You know, I feel like that does ring pretty true. The more I play the game, it's not overly long between gyms. It's not like, and again, like I can waste my entire day out in the wild area doing essentially nothing but everything at the same time, or I can quickly, like when I decided to say, okay, I'm way behind, I did a bunch of gyms like all back to back to back, and it's not hard to do. It's just it's hard to pull myself away from the wild area to do them. Away from raids.
So a couple things that I wanted to say in terms of like difficulty, right? We're talking like mostly in terms of battles, right? But there's also other elements to the game, like catching Pokemon. Now, because of raid battles, it's like a hunt to just go out and catch and find certain rare Pokemon. Like, you want to find a particular Gigantamax Pokemon with a particular ability. Like, that's a hunt that you might want to do with your friends. Like, that's a social hunting experience. It's also pretty challenging in and of itself, separate from the battling, right? And that also doesn't count once you get into the post game, which I don't know too much about in terms of like the story elements, but I do know there's like a battle tower, right? In the battle tower, you fight a computer, but you're actually auto leveled to 50s, right? So no matter how much you're level, it's not really about level anymore. It's more about strategy, right? And in that case, battle tower can, if you don't want to play online or do multiplayer, that can offer a lot of challenge. But then, of course, there's also the multiplayer, right? And that's a big part of Pokemon, playing against other people. So in that regard, obviously, there's plenty of challenges by doing that. For example, I feel like I would say that Pokemon sometimes is a little bit unfairly judged, because this game, it has to have like an extensive single player, but also it has to be a very big social game that has a massive multiplayer experience as well, right? Because not everyone gets into the multiplayer. Some people just play through the campaign and that's it. But the multiplayer, for some fans, is an even bigger deal. Like, I'm a competitive player, right? So for me, I'm extremely excited, yes, about the single player campaign. I think it's pretty good so far. But for all the things I can do after, hunting and breeding and building better Pokemon, right, to then take them online and do the battle tower and then go to tournaments eventually, like in real life as well, like all of that, the way the game is structured seems like it's made that experience a lot more accessible and seamless, and it is respecting my time, because it seems like it's easier to build these teams, but there's still a lot of challenge in terms of team building and going out and doing the battles in the battle tower and playing online.
And again, as far as that goes, like with building a team, you now have mints to fix your natures. You should still have bottle caps are in the game. You
don't have to collect heart scales anymore. You can just go to the Pokemon Center and delete and remember moves that you've deleted from before, or moves that it had that you just didn't know.
You can you have a Pokemon. It's like, oh, this Pokemon's perfect, but it doesn't have this egg move. Well, you can get it.
You don't have to start over.
You can transfer it. You don't have to start over.
Yeah.
The TRs again,
there's basically like 200 TMs now. Instead of 100, there's like 200, but the other 100 you have to collect by doing raid battles, which you can get a whole bunch of, right? It's not like you find one TR and that's it. You can still find that TR again by doing a particular raid battle that will give you that TR.
Yeah, so and they're pretty easy. You get a lot of them.
What'd you say, Brandon?
But like,
Certain people on routes give you TRs as well. I've only
Yeah,
got, like,
you can
one
buy
or
some
two.
from the,
Yeah.
yeah. Which is really
And
cool
then-
because we have more moves to give to our Pokemon than we did from before.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because like we go back to talking about difficulty. Well, one thing I remember, like back before when TMs were one-time use, I would never use them. So I'd always be like, oh, what if I use on the wrong one? I've only got one shot of this. I'm not going to use it. But then when they became, like infinite use, it's like, oh, I'll just get a decent TM. Well, it goes to everyone. It's like back in the day, oh, HM, yeah, Surf, yep, everything water gets Surf. Every Pokemon have these strong moves, but all these like big, powerful moves that are many times used for competitive. So your flamethrowers, your ice beams, fire blasts, everything those are all locked behind TRs. So they're not TMs. You don't have an infinite number of them to just give to everything. There's still good moves in TMs, but the ones where it's like, oh, well, I'm going to get this TM early. So, I'm going to get flamethrower early and then I'm just going to maul the game. It's like, well, that doesn't happen now, or you can't give it to everything. So you got to wait. So it does actually end up increasing the difficulty of the game a bit, unless you're doing a bunch of raid battles, especially if you're going.
So I actually want to jump
be in there with.
back to the point you were talking about with like how you would score the game, right? And obviously, everyone has a different opinion on how they would score a game, and I feel like scores are a little arbitrary. It kind of comes down to what's actually being said, right? But I feel like for Sword and Shield so far, right, I think I could say this might be one of, if not the best Pokemon game in terms of my experience of, through the campaign so far. But at the same time, though, it's on the Switch, right? So it's also like that higher expectation. This is not a handheld game anymore, right? Like, I feel like it's fair to say that with handheld games, like, there is a lower expectation in terms of scope and how much you can do in that particular game. When you start comparing it to other bigger AAA games, you hold it to a greater expectation, right? So it needs to provide more, right? I mean, we are spending more money for it, so we should get more for our money, correct? I think that's typically when people that makes, in terms of like capitalism and consumerism, that makes sense. If you're paying more for a game, you should get more out of it. So I feel like with scores, like for example, if I were to give the game an 8.5 out of 10, that's not me saying that this game is, say, worse than X and Y, which is an 87 on Metacritic, right? Like, I still think it's better, but it's also being compared to really good games that are coming out around this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know, it's difficult because I feel like this, to me right now, I think this is the best experience I've had in a Pokemon game. But when you're comparing it again, like you're putting it up beside, like Breath of the Wild, and it's like, how does it really compare? It's like, well, they're very different games. People are like want that exact same look, but they still want 20, 30 Pokemon on screen at once in the wild area, and I think they did a great job with technical limitations, but I think they had to make a bunch of decisions, and some of them weren't always for how well the game looked, and more of just what they wanted to go with the scope.
And an important thing to note, though, is that if you look at every single new system a Pokemon game is on, right, the first generation on that system is always, like, in terms of what's being pulled off, way worse than the second generation. Like, a little compare Sun and Moon from a technical perspective, what's being done in the game compared to X and Y. Right, like graphically, obviously, Sun and Moon destroys it, right? And in terms of other things you can do with the world, there's a lot more that's being done, right? Or, for example, compare Generation 5 to Generation 4, where like Generation 5 had like a 3D environment with moving pixels, right? There was a lot more going on there compared to Generation 4. And then, like Generation, you get the point, or Generation 2 to Generation 1. There's a big jump there. But then again, there was also color involved. But point is, the second generation on a particular system usually makes a major jump. But either way, I think the game's pretty good so far. But Mandy, how do you feel about your experience so far? Because I know you were a little bit more critical about this Pokemon game leading up to release, right? So how do you feel about it now that you have your hands on it and you've been playing it for a while?
Okay, well, it exceeded my expectation. It has its like good parts, especially the customization. I love to customize my character, make her look cute, customize the card, I actually wish I had a physical card of my card, because you know all that.
I
Cute
kind of like the
stuff.
card thing. It's fun. Yeah.
I like all the cute stuff, and so you know, I really enjoyed that. But as for like, I didn't. I feel like I was a little too hard on it, but and it came out better than I thought. But I still have like a lot of complaints, especially like the way it looks or uh, and the story. The story was a huge letdown. Well, where I am now.
What gym are you at?
I got fourth, the fighting gym. It'll be
Okay.
your ghost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess I got shield. Have you seen? I understand what you mean. Like I guess for me, the story appeals a little bit more to me, mainly because it is kind of focused more on like the tournament aspect of it, which I'm all about. But there is like another background story to it. And some of my friends, right, they said, hey, you know, the story is happening in the background, like that's what the adults are handling, and you're not an adult, so you don't get to be involved with the story. But there are some
like,
interesting
sense.
character things that happen as it progresses. Like there's this one thing that happens with Bede that I think you're really close to, Mandy, if you haven't gotten to it yet. That I thought was like, whoa, okay, I didn't think that would happen.
Oh, it was it. Oh, I don't want to say it.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but like basically, you know, Bede does a no, and
Yeah, I know
yeah,
that part.
yeah. So I was surprised about that, you know. So
Well, I could like kind of predict what's gonna happen. Like it's so in your face. I'm like, damn.
like,
Like
I thought to
that
this
was
point,
big.
Generation 5 may still go down as the best story for a Pokemon game. Like, it doesn't look like this game has a better
Oh.
story.
But
It
that's the
has
thing.
a theme that they're not going back to a theme that heavy again.
Yeah,
I was
But I
surprised.
think
it seems like
they
it's
should.
lighthearted.
I wish they would have kept going.
I think they should, tell a compelling story. I think we're past all the, get all the 8 badges, go to the challenge, you win, and then, legendary story on the side. I feel like they could have done something with the characters. They have a cool cast of characters.
Yeah, I think the actual characters, like the gym leaders and your rivals, are really good, right?
Yeah.
And I also think that in terms of the way like the cutscenes are, that's all really good. But the voice acting and then maybe a heavier plot twist, like welding that into what we're sort of experiencing with the gym leader challenge, that would have maybe been the best way to go about it.
And even Hop, he has some potential to be, they could.
He's
I
not a
don't know
pushover, which is what I didn't like about is it How?
Yeah.
Hop.
No, it's Gen 7.
How is Sun and Moon?
Yeah. Like Hop is like similar to How, but he's not as much of a pushover.
I just wanted, I don't know. At the point I am, he's kind of like the typical rival. I just thought they would do something with the whole, my brother is the champion. Maybe they do. But I just feel like they're gonna not go there because I could see, like
it'd be cool. I don't want it to happen, but it'd be kind of cool if, like, for example, Leon died in front of Hop. Like, how would Hop react to watching his hero?
I don't think they'll go that dark.
Okay.
That's never happening.
No, it would never happen, right? Like, but you know what I mean? Like, if you had something happen to his brother, who he obviously, like, he loves his brother to death. Like, he's his hero, his role model. He's everything to him. So if something bad happened to Leon, seeing that with Hop would be interesting. Now, I'm not going to try to be careful not to spoil anything, but obviously, Hop's relationship with his brother, the champion, if you think about it, there is, like, potential issues there because Leon is supposed like the best champion ever, right? And you are you, and if you play Pokemon games, you're going to kick Hop's ass, right? But Hop's goal is to become the champion. So, Leon, the best champion of all time. Hop, who looks up to his brother as a superhero and role model, wants to become a champion. But then there's you. Like, you can already see where there's going to be some sort of complications moving forward.
And I also like to talk about Team Yell. I'm like, what are their goals? Because like
I think they're nice people who are really stupid.
Yeah, they're the vocal
Good people
Like
don't
I
come
see
to
what
you.
you're doing there, Game Freak. I see it. I get the point. But it's just, I mean, Team Skull was kind of like the best as like, you know, the gangs that are not really evil but are just there to like battle you.
I don't really need like an evil gang. I just need things to be going on, right? So like I don't really, yeah, like Team Skull was really interesting, but I don't even feel like comparing Team Yell to it because I feel like Team Yell doesn't have as important of a role to the story. So I'm not comparing them to Team Skull, if that makes sense.
They're more like comedic relief.
Yeah.
Because all they do is like, I want to cheer for you so hard and stuff, and everyone's like, get away from me. So like, it's just comic relief, but yeah, they don't have potential. But you know, I like how they implemented them, even though nobody.
I feel like it's fitting in Galar. You know, like it's a UK based region that has fans like that for soccer fans or football fans, however, depending on where you are. But like that, it's fitting.
I think it's like a analogy for the Pokemon fandom, but
Well,
I don't think it was. I think it turned into it.
Yeah, I mean, because the Team Yell was
It turned
developed
into it
way
really
before
well.
any of the controversy, for example, right? Like that was already there.
yeah,
But,
the Pokemon community has always been
Right, well, that's also true. The Pokemon community's always been a tough community. Yeah. To leave it at that. But Jugsmiki
and they're
just
all
added
old
me.
people. Like
Yeah. But
I see it.
Yeah, he was saying, Jugsmiki was saying, tell Yell, Team Yell is Game Freak's way of making fun of K-pop stans.
What? I don't know K-pop.
It's a genre.
I know what K-pop is. I just don't know what Team Yell.
I don't know if it has to do with K-pop because I don't know if that's a big.
But
you know,
talking about like
English
European, that major city, I think it was the second one that looks like a castle.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of tacky. I'm like,
Really?
I see what you do. Yeah, it looked like it was a castle, but it looked like a castle from Disney World, and you have
Like the Dragon
typical...
Castle?
No, it was one of the bigger cities. Like after you get off of Moonbrook or whatever that was called.
Do you mean the one with where you have the opening ceremony?
No, the one on top of that one.
The Dragon Castle.
Yeah, that dragon.
Okay.
I thought it was very tacky looking.
I really
I was
like it.
Is this like a Disney World kind of thing? But
I thought it was super cool.
I was like, oh, is this supposed to be England or something? I'm like, nah, I can see the Victorian houses, but like everything else, I'm like, that's a little tacky there.
Yeah, Vooper's saying Team Yell is literally about the soccer, football hooligans. They have vuvuzelas. I mean, yeah, there is like the whole like soccer fandom where they get really crazy, right? So there's something to that, I think. They're probably
Is
a
that why
comedy.
you wear like a soccer uniform when you go to gym battle?
I think that there might be something to that. I definitely think there's, yeah.
Very intentional.
Yeah, like at first when I
Soccer's
saw
the big thing over there.
with the first trailer, right? Like I was worried that it was gonna be a big soccer mini game as the gimmick for Sword and Shield. Like,
Ugh.
yeah,
Oh, that'd be so bad.
yeah. But I like what they did, which is what I was hoping, that they're gonna have more of like a big like stadium focus with a huge audience. Like that's what they went for, and I think at least with the gym battles, that's one of the better parts of the game. Like the way the gym battles happen, I love it a lot.
One thing
yeah,
I'd like
it's
to ask
fantastic.
is like the first gym challenge is really easy and kind of boring. Are the other gym challenges better? Because the first
I mean,
one's not good.
I would say that the first one is definitely the easiest one. It gets better, but
After
I mean,
the like
but I mean, in
initial
terms
three,
of
it gets better.
Okay.
I feel like the fourth gym to me was the most disappointing.
how many badges have you done, Jumo?
1 sec. 5
gotta-
or 6.
You gotta count.
I have I'm at the ice one now.
Okay.
So I'm 5 badges in. I'm standing in front of the gym for the 6th.
You gonna do it after the podcast?
Maybe.
Maybe you might do it now.
Possibly.
Yeah. No, for me, I like it's just kind of one of those things where like at least with the gym like I'll play with like, for example, I'll play with my friends, but when it comes to like a gym battle area, I always put in the headphones and I'm like, okay, this part is gonna have my total attention because I want to hear everything, experience anything to the fullest. But it was, man.
But
I love it.
about the gyms, I don't like the gym challenges.
You don't
I
like
don't
the gym
know,
what?
with Pokemon, the gym challenges, like before you go inside.
Okay, the
to
little puzzles.
I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, why is this here? I just want to get to the actual leader.
I like them. I think they're
I
cool.
don't
They've
think
always
they're
been in
bad.
Pokemon games to some extent,
Yeah.
but
I feel like they're at least better in this game than previous games. Like, is there room for improvement? I'll take that. But I think compared to previous Pokemon games, I like the way they handled like the challenge before the challenge.
I just like the challenge. Do we need a challenge before the challenge?
It gives variety, I guess. And
It-
I
like
appreciate the
mini
It breaks
variety.
up the game a little bit. It just breaks up the game. It's a way of, like, just breaking up the game. You'll get that in a lot of different games. That's why in, like, a lot of shooters will be a driving mission. It's just to break up the gameplay a little, just so you're not doing the same thing over and over and over again. Which was the big complaint with Assassin's Creed, especially the first one. It's like, oh, it's just the same thing over and over again. It's like, well, so if you do the same thing over and over again, but then you break things up with like different types of missions, it's just a common way they do that.
And actually, on the topic of mini games, like there's a few in the game. Like the one that's coming to mind, and maybe it's like the only like major one, is the one where you can ride bike and go through the balloons. Have you guys tried that yet?
That
No,
sounds
I haven't.
horrible.
I don't
It's
even know where it is.
Bike physics with balloons.
It sounds terrible to you, or is it terrible?
No, it sounds terrible.
Yeah, I think it was pretty fun. Like it's just you're riding. It's basically, when I say the balloons, like you just ride through them. Like it's kind of like, you know, guiding you. It's like a little race. It's like a time trial. I think it controls pretty well. I actually really like it.
I kind of
when
miss
you
the
do it, you get
Pokemon
certain TMs.
Mm.
You said
Really?
Pokemon
I
Con?
kinda-
A Pokemon
TMs
contest?
or TRs?
They're TMs.
I mean, like the
Oh,
Pokemon contest where you like dress up your Pokemon,
Yeah, I
and
miss
then you
that.
get like.
I'd like
I
to,
miss that a lot.
like I don't need it to be in every single town, but to have it, you know, maybe like, because I think I remember like they could have like maybe like 3, like, you know, for, you know, the minor league, the major league, and then like the super major league or something. Like if they did that, that's something they could do. They could offer even more variety. But I like the mini games. Like I'm all for variety. So like put it all in the next Pokemon game. I want it all.
I was never a fan of the contests, but I feel like that'd be a nice thing for them to bring back.
I mean,
yeah, especially with the new.
it's been so long.
Customization.
But I guess the other problem
Matchup.
is that one of their big purposes for the Dex cut was balancing, and then to have another game mode that needs to be balanced with all the Pokemon on top of that just becomes even more problematic.
But I'll say,
I
but
don't-
they just not
But
balance
here's
it.
the other thing, that when you focus on just more, like a more select amount of Pokemon, right? Like that does free up more time and resources to offering up more ways of experiencing the game, more modes. Like we do have more things to actually do in Sword and Shield
Yeah.
compared to previous Pokemon games. So with the next Pokemon game, I don't think it's a stretch to say that, hey, if they continue with the idea that they're not going to have every single Pokemon from the Pokédex in there, and that gives them more, you know, time to put in more modes, maybe we could see that, right? And it wouldn't really take away from the quality of the game.
I feel
they're
like
gonna-
they should put in a picture mode, a photo mode. I like
At
every
least-
game of this generation needs a photo mode. I'm sorry.
I'm not against that, but I will say that at least with Sword and Shield, when you go into the camp mode, right, you can zoom in on every Pokemon, and there's so many different things they can do. That I think it's obviously it's not a camera mode like, you know, selfie mode, stuff like that, but it's pretty nice that you can actually like get really up and close and personal with your Pokemon in the camping mode.
But I like, want to take pictures with them, my cute outfit, or something, customize it. Like, in Sun and Moon, they have like.
Right, and there's
stickers
tons of
and
customizations. So that I could see how that could be pretty cool
Yeah.
to see.
Or like have your like favorite Pokemon on your card or something featured behind you.
Ooh, that'd be a
Something
good
like
one too. Yeah, I gotta agree with both. Like, again, like putting the Pokemon on the card is Charizard behind Leon on his card?
I'll have to double
No,
check that. I don't
Leon
remember.
is sitting down, and when you turn over the card, it's just a flavored text of like
Okay.
how they are.
Just a quick shout out for my friend Marcus. He said, "Can I get a shout out for Peacock's Point Posse?" That's where we grew up. One of my childhood friends. What's up, bro? But we used to actually play a lot of Pokemon together, like the originals. But it's come a long way, so it's been pretty good so far. But where was I? I don't know. There's still a few different things we could talk about here. Is there anything in particular you guys want to address that we haven't addressed yet?
Yes.
Okay.
I was really hoping that there would be kind of, like the choose which gym you want to go to first kind of deal. I thought that would be a thing.
Instead, it's
really
like
hoping for
super
that, like Ocarina style, Ocarina of Time style, where some certain times you can take on certain dungeons in different orders. I was hoping for that. Like obviously I didn't expect you to be able to finish like the final gym at the top of the map first or anything like that. But a few times where I could have chosen which gym I wanted to go, which routes I wanted to go first would have been nice. I was really expecting them to do that, and they didn't.
They could have like the first 3 gyms, they could have changed it around a little bit to where you could have done the first 3, right? And then you could have done like the first, then 4 through 6 in out of order, and then it could have been 7, then 8. Like they could have changed things around. They could have changed things around like that if they wanted to. It's okay.
Yeah, it's like everything's like you have multiple like almost like circles going around. It's like I'm surprised they didn't have a couple different branches, because they usually do put them in the last few generations have had a couple of options.
Yeah, instead of
Not a
this
lot,
time, you
but a
have
couple.
to, there's like an actual specific order. Like in previous games, even though there is like an order, they don't like straight up tell you the order. In this game, it's like, no, the challenge is like this. Each gym leader is assigned a particular number, and you have to go through them in that order, right? And then the map literally tells you exactly where to go. So instead of being open, the game is actually in a way more linear. But I'll say that I don't like it. Doesn't bother me, right? But I feel like if you're gonna go more open, that is asking for an even bigger Pokemon experience, which obviously I would want. But
I feel
We're
like
not ready
I
for
don't-
that.
yeah,
until you actually sit down. It's like, oh, I'm just punching out gyms nonstop, and I'm just gonna run through the story. I feel like it doesn't feel linear. Like it wasn't until I'm like, okay, I've just got to get through the story. And again, other people have said it's like, oh, I've gone back to the wild area between
right.
every
So
gym.
there is that. Like at least with previous Pokemon
then
games,
that-
you pretty much just do one thing in a row. Like you can do other things and take a break from the gym leader challenge. The gym leader challenge is linear, but there's other things you can do instead of the gym leader challenge.
And you do have, like here, it's like you don't get the option of going from one gym to the next, but you do get the option of having like 100 different Pokemon to choose on your team. The amount of Pokemon before the first gym is absurd.
There's a lot.
When-
I focus mostly on new guys
If you're doing
though.
raids, oh, so did I. But like when you're doing raids, like you have an absolute like huge roster to pick from. Like it is massive. And then it's also a long ways to the first gym.
It's also really convenient to
It does take a while.
It is. It does take a while. But what I wanted to speak to actually was that, like, it's really easy to kind of put your team together though and try out different things because there are so many different Pokemon. But you can access your PC box pretty much anywhere save for inside the gyms, which makes sense because why would you change your Pokemon in the gyms? It kind of takes away from the challenge a little bit. But and then on top of that, because of all of the candies you get from the Dynamax from the raid battles, if you decide to try out something new, you can level it up really quick to have it around the level for your team. So you have a lot of flexibility with trying out more than just 6 or 8 Pokemon. You could try out like 20 in a playthrough, and that'll, that's pretty doable.
Yeah, I really enjoy that you can access your PC box anywhere because I'm constantly switching Pokemon off my team so that they're not getting over leveled.
Yeah.
So I'm switching them back and forth. I am kind of sort of getting a main roster together.
I mean,
so
it
I'll
should come
switch
together
between them
eventually.
more. But I'm still decided between them. Sometimes I'll, be like, oh, I actually found this new Pokemon I like that. I like way better than the other one, so I'll kick them out and race them with that one.
And that's not going to end when you
it's-
beat the game either, because you still have like the battle tower and stuff like that. So the way the game is structured, it's going to really make it easy for you to try out different teams.
Yeah, it's just nice being able to access my PC box from anywhere instead of having to go back to the towns.
Yeah,
I like how
Definitely
the
very annoying.
Mandy, you go.
the style of the game is very simple. Because you know how Sun and Moon had everything like on the screen at once. Uh, Sword and Shield is kind of like I
The
like the
UI is
aesthetic
really
of it.
clean. It's super
Yeah, it's
clean.
nice and clean to the point. You
Fast.
know what everything does. You can even customize where the icons go. You have your iPhone Pokemon thing. So I just like the whole simple and clean, not colors or
Yeah. One
crazy
little
stuff.
thing, I really like how flying and the town map are now one the same. I always thought it was a little redundant that you could access your town map in previous games to look at the map, but then when you go to fly, you see the town map anyway, except you can choose to fly. So now
Yeah.
the town map is where you choose to fly.
Yeah, they pretty much give you everything. The fishing pole, the
You
flying
get that
is a
right
little
from the
bit.
beginning. Like
Yeah.
they don't even tell you have the pole. You just check your bags. Like, oh, I have the fishing pole. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, that
It's
was.
like,
I was a little surprised with that.
Yeah.
nowhere to fish yet, but I have this.
Don't know where, don't know how,
Yeah.
but sure.
Yeah.
But
I like that.
probably
Get
the
to the point.
biggest thing, one of the things I hated the absolute most about Sun and Moon that I loved so much in Sword and Shield is the menus. Like, just there was so much menu delay in Sun and Moon that they allowed you to pick, where you want to put. You caught a Pokemon. Well, do you want it in your party? Do you want it in the box? They gave you these options, and that's a really good quality of life improvement. Except that with the menu lag, it was just terrible, and it just made the game crawl. Whereas this, when they give you those options again, it's like it's very snappy, and I really appreciate that.
You
as
could,
just
like,
a little thing.
Throw the Pokeball right from the thing. You don't have to go inside your bag.
Yeah, press X.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, this is luxury.
Yeah.
And you can choose which which Pokeball to use just by hitting X, which is nice.
So, how do you guys feel about the battles themselves, though? Like, how they look, how they run? One really cool thing for me that I'm really excited about is just that you can have a doubles battle or any sort of battle, and there's no slowdown. You could not say that about previous Pokemon games. Like, they were lag fests. Now, everything runs beautifully smooth. It's super sharp. I'm liking how they're looking.
I'm liking how the gym battles look more than anything. There's been a few battles where it's very minimalistic, shall we say, of what's on screen, but they can get away with that.
Okay,
and it's going to run really, really well because there's less going on screen. You don't. It'd be so much harder if they were trying to do the battle while the wild area was moving around you. Whereas, the Switch has zero issues. They can handle so much more, and you see it.
I do have a complaint with the setting, right? So like in the, I forget that, I don't know the name of the towns yet, right? But the town where the opening ceremony is, where there's like this little side quest where there's the kids that ask you to help find their Pokemon, right? So I went and I didn't find it yet. I still haven't found it. It's like a mystery to me where that Pokemon is. But if you go to the underside of the town, there's like, a little river. There's like a water area. There's some like cargo crates. When you go down there, I think if you can catch a fish in there, and if you do it, you go fight the fish, right? You fight the Pokemon, and the battle scene is like it's not in the town. It's like an outside area with wilderness everywhere. And it just does not, the background does not match the town at all. And I'm just like, wait,
That's
what?
interesting.
Yeah. So a couple times that
happens,
happens, which is a little off-putting.
The one in the hotel is like just white tiles and then like some white moving stuff across the background.
Yeah.
And that was kind of weak. I'm like, why didn't you just have why didn't you take a screenshot of the worker at the desk and just kind of put that static in the background? And at least that would, and then have the little lights flowing in front of it, and then it would look so much better. But
I like how the hair moves a little. Like there's a breeze sometimes. I'm like, why can't the breeze, when you have your picture, be like all the time?
Yeah.
A little wind. Like I said, little touches just, go a long way.
Yeah.
Little things.
The arena battles, like you said, though, I think the arena battles are where it's
so
strongest. Nice. But how do you feel about the Dynamax Pokemon? You make a giant Pokemon, not even just how it looks is important, but just like how that whole dynamic. How do you guys feel about it?
I don't understand it. It's just like a powerful move. Like I don't know, like, because usually your like moves become like the same moves. sometimes. Like you have the same giga something, giga something, giga something.
Yeah, it's based off of the move type, and so every type has its own move, and that's the move you're going to get. But then they have different powers depending on the base power of the attack that became that, which is kind of weird.
Well, I feel like I'm obviously I'm still learning, right? But as a competitive player, I have like that background, sort of having like sort of kind of understanding the mechanics a little bit. What I really like about Dynamax, right, is that it is kind of combining the Mega Evolution and the Z moves into one, but in a way where it's not game breaking. Because a lot of people feel like, especially with the Mega Pokemon from previous games, it was very centralized because sometimes they were so strong that most teams that were made needed to have one Mega, right? Now,
yeah.
You don't have to have a Gigantamax Pokemon, right? Because the difference between a Gigantamax Pokemon and Dynamax is really simple. Gigantamax, they just look a little different and they have a special move. That's the only difference between a Gigantamax and a Dynamax. So if someone has a Gigantamax and you just use a Dynamax Pokemon, you're not really at a disadvantage. It's not even necessarily a better move. It's just a different kind of move. So
and
for example,
Gigantamax is locked out of online battles right now.
Really?
Yeah.
I did an online battle with a Gigantamax.
Must be a different rule set then that locked
It's just
it out.
it was just casual. It was just casual.
There's a competitive player that's on the ladder, and it's Gigantamax is locked out there.
Interesting.
But
But
they expect it to go in seasons where like this season won't allow them, next season will, and then
okay.
like cycle through is what they're expecting. But I don't know.
Yeah. There's different rule sets that I just played like casual, and it was working.
Yeah.
But anyway, like the point is that like you can kind of use a Dynamax whenever you want, and it doesn't have to be any particular Pokemon. So every team has kind of like an equal opportunity with Dynamax, and like I said with the Gigantamax, the only difference is what is like the special move, and the special move is not even necessarily better. It's just different. Like, for example, I think with like a normal G-Max fire move, it puts out Sun, right? With Charizard's G-Max move, instead of it putting out Sun, it just leaves for 5 turns. If you're not a fire Pokemon, you take a little bit of damage instead, right? So that's not necessarily better. It's just different.
Okay.
But I love it. I
Yeah.
think it offers a lot more variety because everyone can do
Only
something
used
different with it.
Once in the gym battle against the.
Gotta do raid
gym
battles.
leader. Yeah, I haven't
I
done those yet.
like it in the raid battles. Again, it just adds to the atmosphere in the gym battle, and I love the atmosphere so much. I really like the Dynamax Gigantamax in the gym battles. In raid battles, it works well. I'm really happy you can't just do it everywhere in the entire game. That is,
Yeah, it limits it so it doesn't like. Because the thing is, like for example, right? When in previous games, like, oh, I got a Mega this turn. I got a Mega this turn. Oh, I got a Z move. I got every single battle. Like, no, that gets kind of. It gets stale. That's a good point.
and then as far as like online battles go, it's kind of way too early to tell.
Yeah, there's
I
still
haven't
a lot
done
with
any
that.
online battles,
Yeah.
but like as far as online battles go, and how it does, it's just you won't know until much later on.
So I just
So-
saw this comment from Salem in the chat. I don't know what this means exactly, but he's saying, by the way, just an announcement that they are popping new Giga Pokemon in the wild area. If I read that correctly. So I'm not sure. When you say new, do you mean some of the Gigantamax Pokemon that aren't a part of the Pokédex, or do you mean something else?
No, it's going to be so Gigantamax Pokemon. Like Butterfree is available. I believe Butterfree is going to be a 5-star Pokemon only for the Gigantamax Butterfree, but you can get it as low as either 2 or 1 star right now because that's the area it is. There's also Pokemon in the game that are programmed in the game
That aren't
but
available,
aren't
right? Not yet.
available at the moment, and that might be what he's talking about. Is they're bringing those ones
Right.
out as well.
I hope so, because
Because
I want
there's-
those to be made available really soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some cool ones. But I looked it up. Apparently there's like 92 like raid dens in the wild area.
There's a lot. That's all I know.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of Pokemon to hunt down and find. But
There's going to be a lot of information come out from those two because each Raid Den has its own rate of running into certain Pokemon. So like there's one Raid Den that apparently is basically only Ditto. So
Yeah.
that's where everyone's gonna run.
Well, the thing is, Dittos are really
run
important
Dittos.
because you need those to like start breeding to get really good different kinds of Pokemon. So people are gonna want to get a good handle on what kinds of Dittos and where you can get them.
Yeah, so that's
I have a Ditto.
Good.
It's cute.
no Gigantamax have some chance to appear, but
Oh, okay. It seems like it might be giant. It's like they cycle out every little bit. Cause like last night I was seeing a lot of Dreadnought Gigantamax.
oh, I didn't know that. Darn,
Okay.
I wish I was on.
That's gonna be something. That's gonna be something to look into. But also that's an interesting point though, because now that Pokemon's on the Switch, right? You're gonna be able to have events and DLC and patches. What do you see from that from what we've played so far? Like, do you think we could be seeing a lot more events? Like maybe for example, those Pokemon that are programmed into the game, will they be events? Where they're like, oh, guess what, guys? For this entire weekend, there's this raid going on where you can acquire this particular Pokemon, and it'll just be an announcer.
I hope they're events because just.
And
like,
I hope we don't have to wait a year. Like I hope it's like very often where we get like new events or Pokemon.
I don't want it to be like, oh, hit yes on mystery gift, and there it is. There's your.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's your legendary or your mythical, and it's like, at least like. I know a lot of people want like a full-on event for it, and I feel like that's not asking too much. But if it is, could we at least just have it show up in raid battle so we can, raid?
Like I'm not asking for like a
and...
story sequence. I'm asking for, hey, just let me go catch that.
Yeah, just more than now it just shows up and now I just have it. Like make me at least work for it a little bit.
Yeah, I think raid battles dens would be the best way to handle that. It's already in the system. Just have that Pokemon come up in a raid.
Yeah,
and it doesn't just have to be Gigantamax, right? Like there are some Pokemon that I don't want to spoil it for some people, but there's like what 30, 40 other Pokemon that we know about that are in the game that they could just have
30.
pop up in raids. Exactly 30.
35.
I'm like taking into account that like evolutionary lines, right? Like a 3-stage line would technically be 3 Pokemon.
Yeah, so there's 35 more Pokemon in the Pokédex, so it would be 3, and I know at least 5 of them are 3-stage.
Yeah. So there's that. But it'd be interesting though, like do you think they'll announce DLC for this game? Like do you think
I don't see why not.
I feel
think
like
they
that's
could.
Instead of doing the third game, I think they're going to do a DLC for it.
I really hope you guys are right, because that's what I want. So an interesting thing that kind of came to mind to me, right? So like, I haven't been in the game yet, but I do feel like there is some setup for like a story a little bit down the road. Like with some characters, there's an implication of who they will become, right? And if you think about it with Black and White, we got Black and White 2. Some of those characters became gym leaders or more important characters, but when you played that game, you were someone else, right? Like your original character, you don't actually ever see that character again, right? But with Black and White 2, they offered more map, right? Like you started from a different part of the world where there's more areas, different gym leaders, a different story, more going on. That's all really cool. I wouldn't mind something like that, but I guess the advantage of doing DLC though is that instead of having you start from scratch again, it's not from scratch. It's like basically maybe more like a whole new post-game story adventure, right? They could do something like that instead, which I think would be really exciting.
Would, but seeing as traditional Pokemon is, I don't think they would go stray from the usual, just add an Ultra or a 2 and just
right, but they
they
also have not had DLC options before, right? So I would argue that this is kind of like uncharted territory, so we're not entirely sure how they're going to handle Sword and Shield, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but I
true.
also
It is-
agree with you that they could just decide to not go with DLC at all and just do the standard a year or two from now, introduce the third version of this game. I hope that's
feel
not
like
the
it'd be
case.
cheaper. I feel like it'd be cheaper and get more sales if they just did DLC, because there'd be a lot of cartridges they wouldn't have to sell for DLC, which would save them obviously a lot of money. And then they could put it out cheaper, which would get more people in, and then they could resell the original game plus the DLC as one package, and then they could market that again to get new sales again. But I feel like, especially during, because like again, you said there's stuff going on in the background, but you're part of the gym challenge, so they could actually do a deeper story afterwards as a DLC, where it's like, oh, because obviously you're going to be champion at the end of this. So it's like, oh, well, you're the champion, so you've proven yourself now. So now when things are actually happening and things are going bad, it's like, they're not going to be like, oh, you worry about you and let the grown-ups handle things. It's like, no, they're going to be like, oh, you're really strong. Come with us.
We need you now because you're the adult.
I don't know. I don't trust
You're the
Pokemon
champion.
stories
You look into
anymore. After this, I was hopeful for this game to have, and I'm just like, why?
I will say that the story
Like,
is
I know who
starting to
the
go better.
evil guy is.
Well, I don't. I'm
Maybe
okay. All right.
questionable motives.
I don't. I know everyone thinks that the Chairman Rose is evil, and
Shh, you're spoiling your
no.
audience,
I'm
man.
not spoiling anything. I am not spoiling anything. This is just what people have been suspecting from before the game came out. Like I don't know. That has not been confirmed to me yet. I don't know. I'm just saying that maybe it's not him. That's just my speculation. The answer has not been brought to light in the story yet. So
Right off
Probably
the bat.
this, gray area of like everyone, Hakuna Matata at the end the story.
I just the moment I saw the chairman, I was like, that's not the bad guy. I'm like, that's a red herring. That's what I'm expecting, and I don't think it definitely hasn't been shown yet. And
I feel like it might be Oleana.
You'd think it's too obvious, but knowing how Pokemon stories go, that's probably where it's gonna go. They don't really.
Like it became like it was really obvious in the trailer, and it's like they did put it out in front of you, and then a lot of people, again, Oleana has been another big speculation. So, and then as you play the game, just the characters and how the characters are developed between the two of them, it's kind of like, I don't really know anymore.
I'm not sure either. Maybe
It's
neither of them are
fair,
evil.
man.
Maybe they're just like, hey, we've just
I
been
can
doing
see
our
them
very
having-
best.
Like he was wearing freaking shorts and I don't know. He was wearing this weirdo outfit.
Maybe he's just a dumb rich guy.
I don't know, but it's like it's to other games it might be a little too obvious, but for Pokemon, that might just be the case because it's Pokemon's for kids.
Perhaps.
Remember, think about the kiddies. Not gonna have this dramatic
Gen 5.
turn
though.
of events,
Right.
and
Definitely Leon's not gonna
stabbing.
die in front of Hop in cold blood. Like no, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't expect stuff. But
I
a little
also
bit
want
more,
Animal Crossing Homicide, and I know that's not gonna happen. But
I want more like a little bit of surprise. Like unless it happens, and if it does, I will say, "Hey, Andres, you were right."
oh,
Whoa.
I'm not saying anything about the story. Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know.
He knows.
yeah.
Anyways,
I really don't know. I don't know.
yes,
I
he
don't
does.
know.
From what I've heard, the story, a lot of the story is quick up until the very end, and then the very end is where you actually start learning stuff. So, is what I've heard.
See,
Again,
he
I'm
backs up my
way-
he
I'm
backs up
very
my
far
case.
back.
Yeah.
People in the chat have been saying that as well.
I'm like, okay. Sometimes I wish there was like the obvious bad guy, but now it's just like I know.
Well, at least it's not an obvious bad guy. Like you don't like people suspect, but we don't know for sure who the bad guy is, right? Like other Pokemon games, you kind of like they just say, "I'm the bad guy. You're not gonna
But
beat
he's
me."
like, He's a corporate guy who's in charge of the whole championship, who has ties with the magical things that make everybody go Gigantamax. Put two and two together,
I'll say this. There was this one moment where you actually get to have a lunch with Chairman Rose, right? You get to have a lunch with him,
outfit.
and you tell him, or he hears, I don't know who tells him, but someone tells him that the professor was a little concerned about about the happenings with the Dynamax energy, and then Chairman Rose is like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear the Magnolia is concerned. I'll make sure to send Oleana over there to ease her concerns. Like, it sounded very like mafioso. Like, oh, Johnny's been talking? Alright, we'll go send some of our buddies to straighten him out, to make sure he's okay. Right, and then when
Sonya doesn't really like him. I see you, Chairman Rose. He has my sister's name, but he's evil.
That's okay. Maybe.
Well, I think he's evil.
We don't know. We don't know yet. I'm telling you, I don't know. I promise. Not yet. Tonight I'll probably find out, though.
Her instinct is point on.
I love Sonya. She's really cool. But I want to check on the chat right here. There's a few interesting things that have been brought up. So Mastermind Atomy. So there won't be Ultra Sword Shield in 2020. I hope not. I do not want an Ultra again. I didn't buy Ultra Sun and Moon. I did not like that. I do not want a retelling of the same story. I want either a sequel or something else, or a DLC expansion. Something. I do not want a reimagining of a game a year after it comes out. No, thank you. So Salem, from what he was saying earlier about the different events with raid battles, he's saying there are going to be two types of events: the legendaries via mystery gift and other via raids. I could see that. Honestly, I could see it being a mix. It's probably, it has to be a mix of both, pretty much. So I agree. Lazy James, yeah, I feel like DLC and extended support is the standard for these types of games in this day and age. True, but Game Freak doesn't always follow along with the standard for bigger games, so it's still, for me, it's a question mark.
They're very traditional, like I like to say. I could see they're
Yeah, but eventually, other companies do DLC for a reason. It makes them money. It doesn't cost as much to make DLC.
Oh yeah, they're flexible when it comes to money, but their games are always at a different pattern. They always have to, because the plushies and the merch and the anime. I wish they would split off from that, so they're not tied to the seasons of stuff.
Yeah,
I don't think that'll ever happen. It's too big of a franchise.
If anything, what I would prefer them to do is maybe the anime could find a way to delay their arcs to be 4 years instead of 3. Right?
Can Ash finally grow up? Maybe follow Ash's cousin, Rash, or something.
Rash.
I'm
not sure.
I'm getting real tired of Ash. Homeboy, you've been at it for years. You need to retire. You got a baby face.
You can't dump him now. He's finally gotten it.
Did the anime start today, by the way, or did it start last week or something?
No idea.
I haven't followed the anime in years.
The only reason to bring it up is because the anime sort of outlines what we might see with the games, and vice versa, right? So we know with the anime that they are exploring more than one region. They're exploring multiple regions around the world. So I wonder if maybe they are changing how they're going to be handling the anime, because they do recognize that they can't limit the way the games are being developed
anymore. Can we have an extended universe of all the regions?
That is the wet dream for every Pokemon fan.
I would love that so much, but I don't think
oh my god.
I think the only time we ever got 2 regions was Gen 2, and that's because they already made the region for Gen 1, so there was it was running on the same thing, so there was not really much holding them back.
Gen 2 was awesome, that's why. But
yeah, it was.
That would be awesome.
But at the same time, people have pointed out what it takes to get two gens in one game. It's you end up with one region is not as both regions aren't as good as they could have been because they're using multiple regions.
Yeah, Kanto, the Kanto in Gen 2 was kind of barren.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was in there.
and
And
the
they could do
region
a
of the
lot of
game was
stuff.
also, I believe it was the smallest region out of all the games. There was a lot of things. Don't get me wrong, I love Gen 2. Gen 2 is my favorite gen, but there definitely is give and take for it. Like it's not quite as simple as, oh well, we'll just have them all.
Yeah. So I do want to like start reaching like maybe the conclusion for this discussion. I'm gonna run through the chat, and if there's anything you guys want to bring up afterwards, by all means, let's bring it up. But just kind of running through here. I'm sorry, Doom, if I cut you off. By the way, is there anything else you want to say to? Or
No, all good.
Okay, all right, cool. So Cold Outside right now is saying, I think they're going to do a third game because the statue in the hotel lobby was holding a sword and a shield. I think the two wolves will fuse. So, I think they could technically do that with DLC. But, maybe. I mean, remember the whole Zekrom, Kyurem, Reshiram thing? Like, they fuse Zekrom and Reshiram, or they fuse it with Kyurem. So, fusion with Pokemon is not unprecedented. He also said, let's be honest, this is Game Freak. They want everyone to buy another full game, especially the people who skipped out on it. Hopefully they don't, though.
Oh, yeah. They always... that's why I said I don't think... DLC sounds like a good option for us because we've seen games do that, but Game Freak...
Well, I'm saying, though, the DLC is lucrative for developers. That's why we see it. It costs them less to make it, and they still make money from it. So I'm not so sure it's necessarily, like, not as provocative to Game Freak and Pokemon Company as a whole new game.
As an example, we do have Monster Hunter, which...
And Iceborne is basically a whole new release, but it's an expansion DLC.
Yeah, it is an expansion, and they did... But again, they did it because it makes them money. They already had the games set so they didn't have to. And the fan base was perfectly fine with it, and they decided that they wanted to do it through DLC because they thought that they believed they would be able to get to more people with it. It's cheaper because they don't have to pay for packaging, shipping, all that, so they can sell more. It's cheaper for them. They make the money, and again, it rebounces the game back into the spotlight.
Well, here's the thing:
distribute it. It makes insane amounts of money. That's why people do it through DLC rather than a second release.
I will say, though, even though I kind of want DLC, just to be clear, they have not announced any DLC yet, right? And with most of the Nintendo published games, we know there's DLC coming before the game comes out, right?
But I think that Game Freak... I don't know. My thing with Game Freak is mostly I don't like the way that they don't communicate with their audience. So I don't really have high expectations for them, like, at all. Like, for my most favorite game developers, I would like to think Game Freak is, the worst, just because of their traditional games and the lack of communication and cutting corners. Like, man, you couldn't hire voice actors for that or something like that.
I will say, even with Zelda, it took Nintendo quite a while to eventually do it.
Yeah, but that's because of the stigma.
Everyone complained about it too.
Yeah,
that's because of the stigma of Link and Zelda talking. People might not like that. It's not because they're cutting corners. But with Game Freak, I feel like they don't even want to try. So I don't feel like they're not going to do DLC. They're just going to finish one project, move on to the next one. It's like a machine with them. And that's what I've been seeing since X and Y. They've just been on like this constant... Like, I don't really see... I like Sword and Shield, but it lacks the soul that made, Pokemon kind of iconic.
I don't like... So, I agree and disagree, right? So, in a sense, for example, I don't like the word soul, because I feel like Sword and Shield has, like, a lot of personality, right? But at the same time, though, I don't like that they've been coming with a game every single year. I think if they took more breaks, the games could overall be of higher quality. Like, I think we really didn't need Ultra Sun and Moon. We did not need that. My opinion. But at the same time, right, I think considering at least like the competitive scene, like they kind of need like updates, right? Because now DLC is more of an option. they don't need to rush out the next game just to kind of update things and change things around a little bit for the competitive scene. You know, like they can introduce like 10 Pokemon or hidden abilities and stuff if they want to change something around for a season, and they can still be working on the next game.
No, because with Game Freak, they're a small team, first of all. Second of all...
Well, that's actually another thing, though, right? Because...
They're not that small.
They're not that small anymore. They've gone a lot bigger, right? We saw,
But that's due through criticism, backlash. All this was needed to put things in gear. That's why when people say, why you criticizing, why you this, there's a reason for it. It gets stuff done. Because at the bottom line, we buy the stuff. And
hard for them
with Pokemon,
they already doubled their staff between games.
But Pokemon, there's a certain kind of it has the name Pokemon. People are more lenient with it, willing to try it out. But a lot of people right now are what are you doing? And especially, jumping from the Switch, from a handheld, all that stuff. So, and they've cut so much corners that I don't even think they really care about their games. I feel like Pokemon should go to someone who cares enough to nurture the stuff. I think Game Freak does not really like it anymore.
I'm not gonna
agree. And that's just speculation because I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
go that far because if they did, they would outsource. If that was the case, then they would outsource the remakes.
No, it's money.
Because they can outsource the remakes, make more money, and
it's money.
Then they could work on stuff they want to work on and make more money off that as well.
That's the thing.
They can that's why the Zelda team outsources Zelda games and Zelda remakes, because they can outsource. They make money anyways, but it's like double dipping. So I pay you to make the game, make mad money off the game, while I make another game that I'm going to make a bunch of money off of.
Well, the thing with Zelda is
you can do it.
The development behind Zelda clearly has a passion for it. It has. But they go through all the stops to make it the best Zelda game it could be, and we've seen that with Breath of the Wild. Pokemon, I think they just meet a quota and then on to the next one. Meet the quota, on to the next one.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I also don't think you're right. So let me sort of I think it's a little bit of both. So they are held back because of Pokemon Company and the anime and the merchandising and the movies. They have to kind of stick to a schedule because everything else is relying on the games. So that does kind of hold it back. So I agree with you on that point, but I don't agree with the speculation that the developers at Game Freak are no longer spirited about Pokemon. I'm playing through Sword Shield, and I feel like there's a lot of really interesting characters and little stories, and Pokemon games have always had those weird stories, right?
But there's no connection with the actual people behind it. They don't do really kind of in-depth analysis on Sonya or whatever, what inspiration, what inspired her character, or...
Well, they do talk about the Pokemon designs and what inspired those, right? We have that in the directs and stuff like that.
They just do that and then move on to the next game. And then I don't know what goes on with the whole merch and the anime, but they need to cut that tie off. But that's neither here nor there. I just feel like they don't have it. They're not as motivated, or with all the backlash and the way they just stiff interviews. They're not as loose like Miyamoto or Sakurai, who's freaking playing with two controllers.
Getting his head ripped off.
And you could see Sakurai loves what he does, and the other ones. But when you see, the developers of Pokemon, I forgot his name.
Masada.
He just stands there. Yes, it could be because of language, but even with translators. He sounds very
so I've actually been in the same room with this guy, right? They make themselves present every year for the World Tournament. They interact with their fans. I just don't agree. I've been in the same room with these people. I've seen how they interact with their fans.
Just because you're in the same room doesn't mean you know how they act, and it's probably an event. So
you got cut off in the last moment. What'd you say?
I said because you were probably at an event, there were
My
guess.
point is that they don't have to go to these events. Like, this is not like for the game. This is not for like a game release or anything. This is for a tournament. Like, I think they care. But at the same time, obviously you're entitled to your opinion. But it's also one of those things where, like, personally, I try not to make, I guess, assumptions about their feelings. I just try to look at the result, right? And I would say
the result feels like it's not their feelings.
Do you not like Sword and Shield?
I do like it.
Okay.
It has its cute moments, it has its quirky, but I feel like there's no experiment, like no trying. Like the characters, they're cool characters, but you could probably name another character who does it too, like Misty, Sonya, redheads, boom. And like, I just feel like there's no love into them. Like, I don't know. It's a good game and I like it, but it feels like on the book. Like it's playing it safe, I guess. Even though they nixed half of the Pokemon, it's playing it very safe. So,
I mean, again, I'll say that I think compared to previous Pokemon games, this is the least safe Pokemon game. Do I still think there's some safeness to it? Yes. Some, right? Like, I agree, like, for example, Hop, while he is different from Hal, there are some similarities between him and the previous rival. Like, they do kind of carry over some cookie-cutter dynamics. But overall, I feel like Sword and Shield is the biggest jump we've had for a Pokemon game in a long time. So,
not for story-wise or characters, or even just, like, the feeling of that they cared. And maybe it's because I've been not really enjoying Game Freak as a company developer, so
but
I kind of
you like the gym battles,
right,
right? Like, I feel like the cutscenes in the gym battles are really cool, right? I love the music in this game. I think this might be one of the strongest games in terms of music. Like the music is not even like stable. Like, the music changes depending on the situation sometimes. Like, it's not just, hey, let's make a really good track and put it in there. That track varies depending on the situation with the gym battles. So
yeah, a lot of games do that, but it seems like
not dynamic
when Game Freak
music.
does it, it's like revolutionary.
No. Dynamic. I honestly have never seen dynamic.
It's not crazy.
No. But the music, though, I'm talking about, like, with the gym battles, it's different depending what's happening within the battle. That's done in a lot of games. It's not saying it's never been done before, but it is not common. I cannot think of a single.
Have you played Hellblade? That thing was like.
No, I have not.
The audio was so.
That was a completely different thing, though. That
it was
entire game was based.
The audio was built into the experience, so you could hear stuff coming from
experience than a game.
Directions. But for Pokemon, I feel like people are like, okay, you can move the camera. Wow, I'm like, that should have been done years ago.
At least they did it.
But
that's the thing. People always say, at least they did it. And I'm like, okay.
So, like, I guess my thing is just, like, I understand what you mean, and we've always wanted more from Pokemon, right? We agree on that. I want more from Pokemon, you want more from Pokemon, right?
Yep.
I wouldn't even mind the Pokemon we have if there was more love put into it. Like, the camping is very slimmed down. Especially when it's raining. It sounds depressing. Like, when it's raining.
I really like the camping because you can do that to heal in the wild area, and you get to interact with your Pokemon a lot more. Honestly, I think the camping is better than Pokemon to me. Because you see a lot more going on with the Pokemon. They interact with each other, they interact with you, you can play with them, and then you go and cook, and that actually gives them experience, and it heals them. So it's actually important to, like, experiencing the game. Like, if you don't want to use potions or fly to a Pokemon Center and still stay in the area, you go camping. I actually think it's really
but
cool.
it's kind of boring. I'm like swinging the stick, and they're playing with it. That's pretty much it.
What did you want out of it?
I wanted a camping experience, like when I, make the
cute
pot,
interaction,
or maybe it could have been like a a experience where I could move the camera and actually move the character, so I'm not just stuck on like the back.
You can crouch and you can zoom in, but you cannot walk around it. So there's that. Yeah,
so you gotta play like creeper mode, but it's just missing so much. The music is not there. Maybe you could pick a track, play it. because it's just like the weather and the footsteps of the Pokemon. If you haven't noticed, there's like a void of like there's no noise because it's the wilderness, not the wilderness, the wild area.
I think you can go camping in some of the routes as well. I would want to go back and like see. Yeah, that's an interesting point. I want to actually like go back and try camping in different areas. Like, what, for example, what if we went camping in that fairy forest? Like, how would that look? So, I want to check that out. See how it happens.
I only like camped in the wild area. It's very quiet, save for the rain.
You could say it's peaceful, but I don't know what they were going for there exactly. I imagine that that's an on-purpose thing because there's music like everywhere else in the game.
It's not on purpose. The purpose was to not put music there. My vision of Game Freak is something of they cut so much corners. I don't even think
it was for sure purposeful because they could have just kept the same music that was going in the, before.
Yeah, but I know they're trying to get the ambiance.
Yeah.
They had a reason for doing it because they had to actually end the track in order to make it happen, rather than just continue the track.
The whole wild area is quiet.
Well,
like nobody noticed that.
I never really had an issue with that. But we don't have to agree on everything, right?
Yeah, that's true.
My thing earlier, going back about having features that are included in other games, it's not so much that we want Pokemon to do something that's never been done before. So when they add a feature that's in another game, just because it's been in another game doesn't mean it's not revolutionary to Pokemon itself. It's like when Zelda added a jump button in Breath of the Wild. It wasn't the first time you'd ever been able to jump in a video game. It wasn't the first time there had been an open world video game. It wasn't the first time for a lot of different things. But it was the first time for Zelda to do that. And it did it in its own way. And that's kind of what Pokemon, some of these things we want Pokemon to add aren't necessarily things that have never been done before. But it's a big deal because Pokemon has never done it.
I think that's a really good point.
I think that's a big distinction.
But I think that's a point that people use as an excuse. Like, you gotta agree. Some things need to be on par for this. Like, I'm not talking about graphics up the wall, but some of the visuals, especially in the wild area, look kind of dank. But I would pass since it's a lag fest with everyone jumping in and out. But even then,
that comes down to a decision they had to make. Do you go with the better looking wild area without putting more Pokemon in? Personally, I would have done that. I would have had less Pokemon on screen to be able to put more assets on screen. But they decided to go with more Pokemon filling the wild area versus more.
There's a lot going on in the wild area.
Well,
like the weather shouldn't really be a thing. Like, let's be honest. Nobody wants it to be snowing and then raining. There.
Nope, I don't agree. Weather is really important.
I completely disagree.
Weather's really important.
Too,
I didn't know you wanted to be a weatherman. Well, because it's first of all it's random. Second of all,
that's the point.
It just changes every corner. There's no cohesion. There's no it makes sense. Like, why is it snowing right here? And then raining over there, and then sunny right next to it.
Let me explain why I like it.
Because of the Pokemon.
Yeah, let me explain why I like it. So, one, it offers variety to what's going on, but also, two, it changes which Pokemon are there, right? So, every time you go back to the wild area, oftentimes it's a different weather. So, it's not just the weather that causes what kind of Pokemon are to be there, but the area. So, if you count the area you are and the different kind of weather at that time, there's a lot. It gives you way more reason to keep coming back to the wild area because you keep finding different kinds of Pokemon. So I think it actually works really well and it creates a lot of variety.
I know where it rains, I know where it snows, I know where it's sunny, and I know different things. My thing is, it just adds so much to a place that already has a lot going on that really didn't need to be a thing. Like, okay, you walk one step.
It also affects the battles too, right? Like when you're in an area, the rain changes. I mean, there's rain mechanics, or there's sand mechanics, or there's electric terrain mechanics. Like all those different things.
But
give more variety.
More spread out. Like during the top you get the hot areas, the bottom rainy, the snowy with snow. It's just so out of
That makes
weird.
it more generic and predictable and less.
Actually,
Oh my
interesting.
gosh.
Your sandstorm can come
Yo,
more
no,
sandy
Brandon
areas.
or Duma, you're not understanding what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, the whole weather change, it kind of messes up everything else that's going on in the wild area. I just feel like they should have just made it one part sunny, one part,
Well, I'll give you that.
snowy.
I think that maybe in the next game it'll be more of a seamless transition. So maybe they could do that.
I was like, why is it snowing? And then
Yeah.
why is it sunny another second? Like, it didn't make any sense.
Because it's kicked up by the Pokemon. So if there's a Snover there, it has snow warning, so it's going to kick up a hailstorm.
Yeah, but you think of a Snover, you think of getting it during like a snow area, not right next to the desert or something.
Everything is in the wild area. I haven't seen a Snover anywhere near a desert. As you get further out towards the desert,
it's just the weather changes, so it's random.
But it's not completely random because so at the beginning area, you're going to see more. You're going to have your neutral weather. You're going to have your rain, your hail. As you go further down, you're going to end up seeing your sands. You get more hail, less rain, and then you go further out, and you're going to be seeing more sand because you're going to be getting that sandy area, the desertish area.
Oh yeah, so take that and just like
pop up.
Make it less random.
But it goes by area on the map. So each named area on the map actually has a cutout on the map. And then it's whatever Pokemon are in that area at that time is what the weather's going to be.
I just felt like it's something that wasn't necessary. Okay.
I'm glad the weather's there.
Game Freak, why do you think of stuff that people are not really wanting? And that's could tie into the whole communication thing. If they were to just be more active in their own fandom, there are toxic people, but there's toxic fandoms for everything.
Yeah,
nobody can control how other people
wants
act.
the same thing.
And
that's the thing. But
nobody wants that because at the same time, everyone flipped out and said they didn't want Mario plus Rabbids, but that turned out to be a fantastic game.
Yeah, but that's like not what I mean. Like with a franchise as beloved as Pokemon, it's not just Mario and Rabbids. It's more like, oh, maybe this weather thing wasn't necessary.
I think the weather thing
more of an explanation.
is a really good thing, but it can be better. Yeah, definitely be better. But I definitely think it's a good idea to implement it.
I've seen like people say, "Oh, Pokemon's not about this, that, this, or that, and this." I'm like, then what is it about? Because it's not about the Pokemon. It's not about the story. It's not about the battling. It's not about the graphics. It's not about the animations. I'm like, what the frick is it about then? Like, you guys just. That's what bothers me the most about, Game Freak and some of the community is that they don't really want to see the game become better. They kind of like okay with anything. And I know Game Freak is okay with just doing what makes them the money. So the games probably won't really change. And that's why you have the other people kind of pissed that the people were just like, okay, Game Freak, we'll follow whatever you say, senpai, because it's like you're blocking change.
I don't think that's necessarily accurate because, for example, I have been on the side of, okay, let's see what Game Freak is gonna do, right? Someone might misconstrue that as, oh, you're just gonna let them do whatever they want. No, I didn't buy Ultra Sun and Moon because I thought it was dumb, right? So like, I don't always buy a Pokemon game just because it's Pokemon. My point is, I give them an opportunity to see what's going to be offered, and will I have some concerns? Yeah, I did have some concerns. Some of them have been alleviated, some of them have not. The story, I think is fine, but I'm really hopeful I'm hoping there's going to be something more in the post game, and I was hoping for some twists and turns. I also was hoping there would be voice acting. It seemed, at first we saw some of the cutscenes, it indicated that I was hopeful. That's not there. So it's not like I don't have complaints, and I do want the series to be better. But, I'm looking at the overall result, I'm still having a really good time with the game. It might be my favorite Pokemon game. So they definitely did something right, and I definitely think they do pay attention to feedback. But the feedback right now is not feedback. That is just...
It became that because they don't listen, they don't communicate.
If
I don't want to go down that road.
No, let's not go that route. But I also will agree with you that I do think they have a PR issue. I agree with that.
Oh yeah.
For example, remember when Game Informer announced officially that there are 18 gyms in the game? That was a huge PR blunder. That was complete garbage, right? So I'm not disagreeing with you, Mandy. I think there is some communication issues, but you know, I also think that they are still trying to make a good game, and I think the result speaks for itself. When you play the game, I think most Pokemon fans really like the game. But yeah, there are totally things that need to be improved upon. And in terms of the weather, I am happy it's there. I hope it stays an element of the games moving forward. But I also agree that, to what you're saying, they could have found a way for it to transition better and be more smooth. Totally agree. So maybe in the next game, it's done better, executed better.
Okay.
As far as PR goes, we also have very different PR from North America to Japan. So what happened when they announced the cut of the national decks, the reason they originally gave right off the bat was for gameplay, mechanics, and balancing. And then very shortly after, they mentioned animations. The Western audience and Western media latched onto animations and ran all their media about animations. And then, of course, everything happened. In Japan, they actually never got away from the gameplay and balancing, and that's been the entire talk in Japan, and that's what their PR has been the entire time. And I actually just found this out very recently.
They need to have like an American kind of counterpart, like Nintendo of America, Nintendo of Europe.
But the thing is, they do have teams that do this. The problem is that they drop the ball,
and they suck at the job.
They never corrected the articles that came out saying, it's like, oh well, it's just,
there's been a lot of misinformation because everyone here, it's all animations, but if you read everything they've put out, they never promised, not once, that the game would have all new animations. Yet there are still people who think that was the case, and with this data mine that shows all of the models, the wireframe models, people are saying Game Freak lied. But if you read everything, they didn't really lie. That's just
lying from admission is still lying.
No. My point is
they had to rebuild the models. They had for whatever reason the models weren't working, and we have no understanding or no reason giving as to why. But they ended up rebuilding all the models. They just used the previous models as like they wanted the previous models. They just for whatever reason weren't working. So they ended up. That's why when you pull the game models, you look at the data. People are like, "Oh my God, they look exactly the same." They're lying to us. Like, but you missed the part at the bottom where it says the number of polygons. They're different. Some are higher, some are lower. By different
do you blame
the
some
reasoning
people?
Is because because they had to build it off of.
All right.
What
So
they were looking at.
Here's the thing. I think part of it is PR. PR, like I think messaging is really important, and I think when the controversy built up, they never adequately quelled those concerns, right? So that is an issue. I think we all agree that there's a PR issue, right? Do we agree with that or no?
Huge PR
Because
issue.
I think it's part for us to find a common ground, right?
And things are not really clarified, right? And then there's already people who know the national dex thing, everything, and then it's like, nobody knows. So people jump to the conclusion that, Game Freak lied. I didn't see that as such a bad thing because they didn't have anything else to really say.
Well,
nor did
my
anybody
problem
else.
is that it's not true. That's my problem with it, right? Like, and a lot of people have really kind of bought into this controversy, and now, like, I have a photo. There's a photo on my phone that I think is really, really funny. I shared it with Dumo the other day. I think you know what I'm talking about. There are some people, right? And this is not, most people aren't doing this, right? So, like, I think so oftentimes on the internet, we're like, oh my God, I hate when people do this. And people assume that they're talking about them, or it's a generalization. So there aren't a lot of people doing this. But there's a particular thing. I don't have it on my computer, but I'm just going to read it off to you guys. So this is like from 4chan, right? I think I posted it on Discord the other day too. Here's a web webpm and it says, spread it around and make sure to strongly imply that this is what all the kick moves look like. If we can make normies think that Game Freak didn't even make a kicking animation for a kicking Pokemon, then we could start to genuinely turn them against the game. Just don't straight up lie about it, just imply it. So here, they were intentionally trying to suggest to people that there wasn't a kicking animation for Score Bunny in the game, or for Cinderace. And if you play the game, you see Cinderace. Cinderace actually has like some of the best kicking animations we've ever seen, but they were making it look like it didn't have anything but like that random bounce, right? Which was totally because they bought into this. Like, there are some people who are straight up fooling people intentionally instead of showing them what the actual game offers.
Yeah, and then like everybody's like, this toxic part of the fan base, and I'm like, I ain't toxic. I want my Pokemon game as much as you. But I feel like everybody's either one or two sides when really
there's other people
any sides.
There's other people who are saying that Game Freak should face litigation through the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission.
Well, if they have enough evidence, then go ahead.
That's the thing. I've told these people, hey, file a complaint, see what happens, and I tell them I feel really confident that whatever evidence you think is there will not hold up in court because I read it all and I don't think there's enough evidence. But again, I don't want to focus on this toxic stuff, right? Like, we all have our opinions. I think we all want the Pokemon games to be good, right? So I like Sword and Shield. I'm really happy about it. Is it perfect? No. But even though it's not perfect, I still feel like it might end up being one of my favorite Pokemon games ever. But I haven't beaten it yet, so we'll see.
That's your opinion. I respect that.
I feel like it moves the series in a really interesting direction, especially if the next one comes out and they have worked out what they want with the wild area and we don't have the routes as traditional routes as what we do now. It would be very interesting to see.
Yeah, for me, I think it's a good half step. If they don't make that full step next generation, that's when I'm going to be upset. Because I think they added enough new stuff that it feels a lot different, and it's the first Pokemon that I've actually looked at and played and been like, oh, this is actually good. Because every other Pokemon, I'm just like, this is not my kind of game at all. This does not interest me at all. Let's Go did not interest me. Moon did not interest me. None of the other ones interest me. I looked at them and I'm just like, this is not my kind of game. But this one is. So I think if they make that full step next generation is when I'm going to be more judgmental. Because I think this was a good half step. But if they don't make that full step, if we don't get those next generation, if we don't get those voice acted cutscenes, if we don't get those better graphics, if we don't get those more wild area, if we don't get these things that we're wanting, then that's going to be a problem. But I think they made a lot of really good additions here. They just need to make enough additions next time as well, and not just be like, oh, this is many additions that we're going to do, and this is good. We've evolved the series. This is great.
I like the point you're making, Brandon. I'll say this. I think I don't expect Game Freak to completely change who they are, right? Like, I think if you look at the series, what they do is sort of steadily evolve the series game by game. I don't think that's going to change. I think with Sword and Shield, like, the trajectory spiked up a little bit, right? Like, it's not stagnant anymore, right? Like, if it stagnates, I think that would be bad. Basically, I'm expecting another half step for the next game, right? But if you count this half step, that's a full step, if that makes any sense.
Right, that's what I was saying, if that wasn't clear. I want them to make it into a full step. I don't mean that they should do, like, ridiculously even more than they've already changed. I just think they need to do another big change so we can get to that full vision.
The cutscenes are totally screaming for voice acting. Like,
I kind of want somebody to fan make.
No, I was saying the same thing.
It's already been done.
Really?
I'll be
Is it good though? But is it good though?
I didn't see it, but I do remember seeing a video pop up. Was what if the opening cutscene was voice acted? So I believe someone voiced over the opening cutscene with Chairman Rose, which
that is like
that alone would be. I want to see it. I should have bookmarked it or something. But
especially since they're in a region with such a distinct accent. Like, you don't get that when you're
reading. You get the people from Xenoblades to do like a voiceover.
Oh, that would have been so.
You know how they do?
The thing is that the Nintendo uses UK voice actors for all their English games.
Yeah.
It would
All their
work
English-
for this
All their
one.
English voice
Pretty
acting
much all of
is
them.
done by UK voice actors, and they sort of missed the boat on that one.
Yeah,
What
I don't
about Fire
understand 'cause-
Emblem?
I have not.
Like they're very active in the community. They could just voice over like some,
Yeah.
like oh have Claude.
I
you know,
almost want to
cameo
do
in
the voice.
Pokemon.
I almost want to do the voices myself, but I'm just one person.
Yeah. My thing is like,
I'll-
as an American, I
be
often
Sonya.
forget that I'm reading, and it's supposed to be in a British accent. So in my head, I'm just reading, and it's just an American accent. But these people do not have anywhere near the accent I'm giving them in my head.
I don't think accent is important.
I think it just because there's
Some of the
so
figures
much
of speech would
flair
be
and-
weird if they didn't have the accent. I think.
It's part of their personality. Is
Every time I
the
see
very
that
strong
chick
accent.
that was on the promotional, like a battling, I get that Scottish accent in my head, like they're about to throw down or something.
Yeah.
So I get that vibe.
yeah. And
No, but,
over,
like the voice acting would just fix so many. Again, like the voice acting would fix these stiff animations during cutscenes, because the animations are good in cutscenes. It's just then it kind of trickles down to give you enough time to read it, for slow readers to read it and then select OK, move on, and then they could do away with that with proper voice acting. And then the other thing, as far as animations go, is they don't really have any turning transitions. And
Yeah, it's weird.
I know what you mean.
they need to do better cuts with that, because you can have like but
there
it
are some
doesn't
good
make sense.
animations in the game, but yeah, like how it
they're
connects.
wonderful.
That look like
But
my car
you don't-
backing out.
That is easily they don't even need the transition animations for the cutscenes for the people, because you can just do a scene change and then they're running in the other direction. Like again, like the opening cutscene with the trainers when it's like focused on their feet, you could literally do a scene change to that and then back, and suddenly they're moving like they're running down a different hall, or something else. Like they have options cinematically, as far as like how they can present this. And I hope they do in the future, because there are options, and it would fix a lot of the complaints without actually doing these transition animations, which, to be perfectly honest, it's a flat scene anyways. So I would rather have more interesting camera angles and cuts to create this cutscene, but might just be me.
All right,
I
so
mean-
go on, Mandy.
But the voice acting could be like a project of like a YouTuber.
That'd be fun to
Get
do.
friends.
Maybe
Oh,
maybe I'll
really?
start researching some British accents.
I don't know, that guy from Honest Trailers, he has that deep voice.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's Chairman Rose. I don't know.
Well, this is definitely like a cool project that someone could pull off. It would take a lot of people to work together, but it could definitely be done. But anyway, guys, I guess I want to close out the discussion. It's getting late. So is there some final thoughts for each of you guys on your playthrough so far? How do you, just anything that you want to sort of just share about the game before we call it a night?
Just sum up my thoughts on it. I think it's a good step. I'm obviously only 8 hours in the game. There's a lot more I need to experience and figure out about it. But going off currently how I'm enjoying it, I still don't think it's quite my type of game that I'm really going to get into. But I'm enjoying it enough. And I think it's I wish Pokemon had done more, but it's not terrible. I will say there's a lot of things I wish Pokemon had done more. But it's not like I'm super upset about it. I just wish that they had done a few bit more things, a little bit more polish in this game, to be honest. But it's pretty good so far.
Right. I'm actually really excited, Brandon, that you're liking this game more than Sun and Moon, so we can actually play it
Oh,
together.
way more.
Yeah.
Moon sucks compared to this game. Moon's trash
Moon.
compared to this one.
I did not enjoy.
I
Moon
haven't
at all.
finished it.
I'm the
Neither
only
did I.
one that
I'm-
I'm like the only person in existence that likes Sun and Moon.
I'm
Whatever.
sure there's other people out there. I mean, like,
No,
it's
they
a-
don't exist. It's just me.
come on.
It's just me. You know what's funny though?
No,
It's a common sentiment amongst Pokemon fans, but if you look at the Metacritic score, it's like 87. So, it just kind of goes to show you that scores aren't necessarily the most indicative of what's going on.
it also reviewed very highly because it was breaking away from tradition. It was breaking away from the 8 gym
Yeah, and also
battles, but
that
then
was
it
in
replaced it
comparison
with-
to
with-
3DS games, right? So there's that to consider.
But it
too.
also, like, to my thing is like, okay, so you got away from the 8 gym badges and you replaced it with 4 challenges and 4 kahunas. Like, yeah, huge departure. And then also people really did like the region, and I will say I think Galar is the best region we've seen.
I haven't seen all of it yet, though.
I
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, if you count
it's
like
hard
the
to
wild
compete because
area,
of the HD graphics, but
like I don't know how I'm not sure. In terms of like just the region itself, like the region layout, like I feel like there is more that could be done with the region layout. But when you
the
count
layout, I'll agree with the layout. The layout could be better, but the region
The
the
itself,
locales,
feel of the
I think
region,
yeah, that
I
I
really
agree.
like
region, I
how-
think
Pretty
they kind of
strong.
nailed that one.
I really like how the elevation is very like different in different parts. Like there's hills and stuff. It's not like a lot of Sun and Moon's map was it have hills, but they'd be like ramps. It didn't feel natural at all. It felt like really like, oh, this is a video game. Here's where it goes
Yeah.
up.
You know
and
what's something I want them
here.
to add? So eventually,
It feels much more dynamic and realistic, the scenery and how it,
Yeah,
kind
for-
of like hilly and more like Breath of the Wild, I guess, in that sense that it feels very natural.
but because of that though, there are a lot of points where you like kind of want to like jump off a cliff or like ride up a hill, and you kind of can't in a lot of spots. I kind of wish, and maybe it's in there, probably not. Like, because eventually you can get upgrades for your bike to get to go faster, and also you get an upgrade to go in the water. It'd be cool if there was another upgrade where it gives you like off-roading wheels, and if you got those off-roading wheels, you could use that to like go up inclines or go down cliffs, so you could kind of like just kind of go wherever you want without those limitations. Kind of like a Breath of the Wild sort of experience, in the sense that with Breath of the Wild, there is nothing stopping you from moving forward. Right, like if there's a wall, you can climb it, right? Or if there's a gap, you can fall and fly over. But I definitely like the point you brought up, Brandon, that in Sword and Shield, it's a much more natural looking environment.
Mm.
Man, is there
Yeah,
any
I
sort of-
gotta.
You go first,
The
Demo.
comment chat. I wish there was a glider. That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
my favorite part of Breath of the Wild.
Or if you could ride a Pokemon, like that's something I would love it if you could actually use. Like, for example, that's one of the things I love about Sun and Moon is that they had ride Pokemon. You could use some Pokemon to move around the environment. It'd be neat if you could do that with Pokemon in the future.
I'm wondering if the wild area and the issues it's having already. I'm wondering if you were gonna have Pokemon following you, if they wanted that visible for everyone in the wild area, and if they were like, if we can have it, we'll put it in. If not, it gets cut. And I'm wondering if it got cut because it was just too much for the wild area to handle.
That is one additional model, but there's another thing is that like when you consider the Pokemon that are running around you, it can get a little confusing. Right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, in Let's Go, you do have the Pikachu and Eevee outside, but if I remember correctly, they're like either on your head or your shoulder, so they're a part of one spot. Like, if you have them following behind you, that can get confusing with all the other Pokemon running around the environment. So it might not just be a technical limitation, but also might be a design choice to avoid confusion.
I could see that, because I don't see why they couldn't have them falling behind.
At the end of the day, it's just one more Pokemon model. There's already a whole bunch.
You could just,
The
if
thing
they
is,
wanted to
it
do that,
be
they could just
one
have
for
one less
every
on
pop
screen.
Mhm. Yeah.
I wish they would have allowed it at least in the routes, even if they didn't allow it in the wild area.
But
Just
the routes
allow
also
it
have
in the
roaming
routes.
Pokemon, though, which I guess would go to my point that it might have just been to avoid confusion.
You had the confusion anyways, and well, I guess that might have been it. They tried it and Let's Go, and they were like, oh, there was a little confusion, so let's just remove that.
Yeah. Maybe what they could do is just have like a leash or something. You know, not like every oh, here come my Wailord dog, come.
Yeah.
But something
leash
to
for some of
mark
these
it
guys.
compared to everything else. You know. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe.
I want some new clothes DLC down the line, like some new
I can see it.
fashion.
Have you gone to every single store Like whenever you go to town, is the
No.
first thing you check out?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
the forget the potions, all that Pokemon stuff. I go straight to the shop.
Okay, so one last thing, because I was game shared the Japanese version, so I got to play it a day early, and so I played it on one save file, and then I restarted on my own save file and played my own save file. And the one thing I noticed is that when you get to the wild area, or when you get to the first shop and when you can first buy clothes, it was different for both playthroughs. Both were Pokemon Shield, which is why when you get to the wild area, there's so many different like looking people running around, like right off the bat, is because everyone's shop was different.
That's interesting.
They actually have a rotating shop.
That is
I didn't
interesting.
know that.
And I'm not
was
talking like one or
just
two
like-
things. I'm talking like the entire shop. Like my entire shop from each playthrough was different the first time I walked into it.
That
I
is.
went in and went,
nuts.
no, left. Customization for things like that, I usually just I don't care. Or
I
it's just
wish
annoying.
we could do more with the backpacks. Like you can have different colors and textures, but you can't change the shape of it. I don't like
Yeah,
I was
having.
hoping that would come up. I was really hoping that would come up because I
You
want
have that
different,
chest on your back.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
girl backpack is great because I mean
It
it's
still
more.
looks cool though.
It's big for a backpack, but when you compare it to the giant chest that the dudes have to carry around, it's
Well, the Pokemon dudes ain't getting much love. Everyone's being a girl. He's
more customization. It looks better.
yeah.
I
I
did notice
I always
all
pick
of them.
dudes because I don't like being.
I usually do pick girls in video games, to be honest, if I'm making a character. This time I was like, it's supposed to be like me, so I'll pick a guy.
So here's my
It's so much worse.
Here's my thing, right? So I watch Pokemon tournaments, right? Like competitive tournaments. So I'm watching like the most competitive players in the world, right? And like most of the time they're dudes. And you're watching them and it's just two girls wearing like these pink skirts and like mascara and you're just like, okay. Like both their avatars are these cute little girls all dolled up and they're both these two like dudes that are just like wearing a hoodie and have like these really like scratchy beards and they're fighting online for the World Cup. Like, okay.
some people like to look at their character.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just, for me, I kind of like, it
I ain't
depends.
touching that.
I like having my character be me, so I usually don't pick a girl because I'm a dude.
I flop back and forth. I don't really. I just
It depends.
whatever I feel like when
Like,
I
loads
I
up.
like playing as girls for particular games. It just, with Pokemon, I like it to look like me, so,
Well,
It
I'm used to
depends to me
playing a
on-
lot of guys because, like, protagonists are usually guys.
most of the time, yeah.
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 Especially
it's one of
Link.
those things where it's whenever the character creation comes up, it's like, what do I feel like today? But I know, like, I remember a friend of mine, like, long time ago, said, it's like, I'm going to be playing over 1,000 hours of this. Which butt do I want to look at for 1,000 hours? Because that's what you're looking at. And I was like, you do you,
Yeah.
man.
Usually my thing
I
is like
mean-
if it's a really
It's not bad
customizable,
logic.
like
I
avatar
can't
character.
really argue with the logic. I don't feel the same, but hey, if that's your logic, I'm not gonna.
Yeah. What were you saying, Brandon?
I'll pick a guy if it's like a really customizable avatar character, because I'll make it look like me. But if it's like something like Astral Chain or Fire Emblem, where it's picked between guy and girl, I should pick the girl because the girl usually just has more interesting design.
I played actually as the guy and the girl.
Yeah. Did you prefer one after playing through both?
I preferred the girl because the guy I had to choose like girls, and I'm like,
Okay.
he was more toned down, so I don't know. I like the girl better. I like romanticizing with.
Splatoon,
Dimitri
I
and
almost picked
Claude.
girl. See, like I don't care about that in Fire Emblem. I'm like, stop asking me to pick who gets married to who. I don't care.
He didn't care at all. I was super happy when I finally got with Edelgard. I was like, yes, I did
It
it.
actually actively detracts from my experience that the romantic stuff is in the game because it's just annoying to me.
Really?
7.9, too much love and
I
romance.
play Cupid with everybody.
Yeah,
You go with you. You go with you. You
Yeah,
know,
it's-
yeah.
Same thing. I don't really care for it. It's not something. Especially like I get why people like it. It's just personally, it's you know. As,
I'd rather
as
just
say
have
often,
like
it's just not for
it
me.
be part of the story. Like this character always goes with this person, and it makes more sense. Like
I
story-wise
feel
that
like-
way.
It has its place.
If
Like in
they-
Pokemon,
if they-
romanticizing.
Yeah, like I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like
None.
if you have the same couples in the story, the same couples come together, you can actually do a better story of that and actually focus on
Yeah.
producing just a better, more cohesive story in that regard versus trying to piece things together and to see who you end up with, kind of thing. And it's like, I don't know. When I was younger, I cared far more about that, but than I do now. But even then, it wasn't a lot, and now it's just kind of I don't care whatsoever unless it gets me something really cool. So like if I need it to get an item that's really awesome, it's like, okay, now I care about it to get this item. Otherwise, I don't care about that part of the plot whatsoever.
Yeah.
You guys are such dudes.
Well, one of my favorite games is Metroid Prime, and she is a super badass chick, and I'll play with her as her every time.
Cause she's the only one.
She's the only one. I'm a fan. Well, if there's another Metroid Prime game, I would be mad if they made a dude play. That would piss me off. It's like, no, this is about Samus. I want Samus.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I feel the same about Link.
yeah, like
Yeah.
like if you want a female playable character in Zelda, then it offers Zelda as an option, sure, because Zelda is Zelda, Link is Link. Like I don't want like I was not a fan of when like remember when Zelda U like the first trailer came out like oh my god Link's a girl, like I didn't like that. I was like no, he's a dude, don't turn him into a girl, have Zelda. Like if it's Zelda, all right, that's cool for me.
That's gonna confuse a lot of casual. So is Zelda the girl or Link
Yeah.
the girl?
Oh god.
That yeah.
No controversy comes back.
Yeah. But anyway, I feel like this is a pretty good discussion. I'm loving the game.
I'm sleepy.
Hopefully we continue to enjoy the game, and it'd be cool to, you know, I look forward to what you guys think once you beat the game. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna beat it before all of you though.
Yo, Andres, I was still waiting for my Ponyetta.
Bonita?
Yes.
I have it. I can trade it with you.
Well, I already got one.
All right. Well.
I told you a long time ago. I was like, I want that Ponyetta. I say Ponyetta, and you never traded.
How dare you?
I was like, okay.
I just been playing the game all weekend. I haven't stopped.
Then you must have had a Ponyetta.
I got a Ponyta and I just kept going. But all right, guys, it was fun.
Dudes, man.
Sorry. Anyways, make sure to check out all these people if you haven't already. The links to all their channels are in the description below. Thank you so much, and we'll see you really soon. And by the way, there won't be a podcast tomorrow. We're doing it Sunday, so this is not an extra podcast. This is the podcast for the week.
You took my slot.
Technically,
I'm
we
just
were doing
playing.
this a while ago.
I'm
Then
just
we switched to
playing.
Mondays. Now we're switching back. But yeah.
Yeah, a long time ago we did do it on Sundays, but I don't. That was
When I
so
first
long
joined
ago.
the podcast, we did it on Sundays. Yeah.
Yeah, we're back to the original time slot.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.